Hey! It is here. This is exciting times. I am so hyped for this. Uh, this has come out, what, 15 minutes ago? I haven't even had a chance to look. As you can see, I've got all the PDFs open, and that is the grand total of what I've managed to do. What's the vibe? I just want to soak this in for a second, because I've been waiting for this for so long. How are people feeling about this? Byzantine Byron says, hype. Exendi says, finally. Yeah, that I agree. Absolutely, finally. So excited for this. A lot of stuff that wasn't on the leaks, and my reading comprehension is East Anglia best. So waiting for this video. Hell yeah. I can't wait to get things wrong. Rat Bastards here. Good to see you. Matthew Sinclair as well. Chris, how to read so perfect so far, you think? Hell yeah. Love to hear that, Chris. Big fan. Infantry buffs, Bretonian Knights all across the realm spotted dismounting. I mean, the new Knights of the Realm models are fantastic, right? Michael Saxton is here. Ultimate Funk as well. Good to have you. Edward Moores is the only one in chat being rude. How dare you, Ed? Vibe is let's bloody have it. Love that for us. Beastmen finally get great vortexes. Now they're nerfed. Oh no! You'll have to have a look at that one. Tommy says, you play Wood Elves, you have expectations about knee height. I hope they do something good for Wood Elves. Warhawks are back, baby. I would love that to be true. And I'm just going to trust you blindly. So hopefully that is something that we're going to see here. All right. Well, very quickly before we get into the stream. Oh, I should say, do the usual YouTube things. If you're here, please do like the stream, give it a thumbs up. Helps me get picked up by the algorithm, yada yada. Let's have a quick look at what they're saying in terms of the design notes. So. Oh, hold on. Let's just make sure I've turned off the chat box, because otherwise that's going to go for the words. Right. So, FAQ and Errata designers notes. It's been a year and a half since this... thank you, that rat bastard.
Rat emoji, 2 ranks of rat emoji.
2 ranks of rat emoji. I have heard rumours that we were going to get infantry in 2 ranks, so I'm assuming that what that has to do with. So, it's been a year and a half since the release. What an 18 months it's been. Agreed, it's been great. Throughout this time, we've kept a close eye on the evolution of the game and released several FAQ updates at roughly 6-month intervals, answering your most burning questions. This is true. I think they've done a pretty okay job by sort of like the expectations I have for Games Workshop. I've been pretty pleased with the rate of releases. I've been very pleased with the rate of releases, and pretty pleased with the actual updates. Would like more, but it's not been bad. This month, alongside the Grand Cathay, the Match Play Guide, we're also getting certain amendments. Here's JTY, our exalted champion of Rules Undivided, to explain more. Good stuff. Okay, so Match Play, scenarios, that's fine. Talking about victory points... yada yada. I will read this properly later on, but I'm sure this is not what people are here for. See me read the article that it's in. I want to see if there's anything in here. Okay. So they're talking about it's competitive play, but also they want to... it is a game. Love that. Fantasy is such a good game in terms of playing and not just doing, a game by maths, which is what 40k feels like it's become. Old World is much more of an actual tabletop battle. Okay, so here we go. This update goes beyond the usual plan of answering questions. We've taken the opportunity to look at certain aspects of the rules, endeavouring to address some of the issues players have. Yep, hell yeah. Magic, level 4s are dominated. That's very true. It's been completely worthless taking level 2s. So they've altered the way in which modifiers are applied to both casting and dispel rolls. Cool. Tweaked the casting values of a number of spells. That's great. Because there were rumours that this was happening, and it wouldn't have made sense without this as well. Unless they just wanted to nerf magic. Taking the opportunity to amend the way in which units interact with vortices, that's fine. I like that, because some of those are ridiculous and hard to play around. Magic is more reliant on dice rolls rather than levels of wizardry. Okay, cool. So that makes Old World more swingy. I'm not opposed to that, honestly. It sucks, like, from a competitive standpoint. But from a fun point, yeah, hell yeah. Infantry have been underperforming, 100% true. Backbone of most armies, regular and heavy infantry now gain some new abilities. They get parry, there are bonus combat points when you outnumber the foe, and you get to fight in 2 ranks. Hell yeah, love that for us. Remove the inability to change weapons to... oh yeah, cool. That makes sense. So you can go between hand weapon and great weapon. Knights of the Realm on foot looking maybe playable. I really like the models. I hope they're playable. The changes make infantry a much tougher prospect, but not overwhelming. Cool. Love that. I hope they've hit this balance. That'd be nice, because I don't want to see just really stodgy Death Stars, but I do want to see infantry having a real presence on the board. May find themselves reassessing the pros and cons of infantry and reconsidering how best to use them. This is brilliant. I hope this is correct, and I hope this maths out the way that they want it to, because this would be the best case scenario for me. Hello everyone. I'm probably not going to be interacting with chat too much other than answering questions and stuff, because we've got a lot to get through, I think. But yeah, if you've got any questions or thoughts, do chuck them in, and I will get to those as I'm looking over. Not the only changes, great stuff. Lots of small adjustments, including tweaking the wording of special rules, addressing how models can fight within a fighting rank, adjusting a few points values. Nice. There are a few things that definitely need adjusting. Refresh and rebalance the game. This is the perfect time for this. I think the first 18 months have been great. The last 3 months or so have felt a little bit stale for me, which is the risk as a competitive player, and I'm not blaming the company for this, but the fact that they've actually done this is fantastic, and I'm so hyped. Good time to do it, great stuff. 9 core factions and their arcane journals released. We've had time to observe the way that people are playing the game and listen to their feedback. Yeah, I guess technically Grand Cathay's not technically released yet, even though we're kind of at the end of the release cycle. Sorry, if you're expecting a day 7 video for Cathay Week, that may have to go on pause. We have a lot more pressing stuff to get to. Day 7 of Cathay Week may take a couple of weeks for me to get to, depending on the scale of the content here. We don't anticipate there being any future errata of this scope. That's super fair. Continue to monitor, make further adjustments when necessary. Please send us questions and download the documents below. Hell yeah, this is brilliant. Liam says, I'm hopeful this is far more in balance with the match play guide, so you end up with a game which really works. Yeah, that is my hope as well. So, let's start off with the Old World FAQ and Errata version 1.5. They've called it version 1.5. Hell yeah, love that. Okay, so blue is things that have been tweaked previously, but are being updated, and then magenta is the new stuff. So, 101, combat result bonus. Okay, so they've changed it so you have to be unit strength 10 to gain +1 combat res. What does this change? Chariots do not get combat close order at all. Dragons don't get it, with the exception of the Chaos Lord, and we've seen the Chaos Lord really nerfed in terms of its viability. I think, well, we'll see the rest of the changes, but right, this doesn't stop Chaos Lords and Dragons from being playable. They're already, like, pretty decent at base level, but we did see that there's going to be more combat res coming for infantry, so this is hopefully the change to make it so that if you charge the front with a dragon, front of a ranked up infantry unit, you just don't win automatically, you know, beat them on combat res, yada yada. So great stuff there. Very happy to see dragons lose a little bit of consistency here, and to see a reason to take bigger units, because I've been playing a lot of MSU. If I've got 6 knights and you kill 2 of them, suddenly I lose the close order bonus. Make me play bigger units. Big fan of this. Chaos Lord or a High Elf Dragon with +1 wound item. Yeah, that is true, Liam, that is true. But the Circlet of Atrazar is 55 points, and if we're looking at the 500 point cap, turns out you can't actually take anything else good with that, so I probably won't be doing that one. Come on, Edward, read for us. Yes, it is Man Read FAQ, and also give you his thoughts. Page 107, Magical Vortex. Change the second paragraph as it follows. Some Magical Vortex move at the start of turn, often by scattering. Should it end a move over a unit, move it by the smallest amount possible in any direction so that it can be placed on the battlefield, not touching the bases of any models. This is a nerf to Pillar of Fire, but I think it's a nerf in a good way, in that this you still get to, assuming that there isn't a change to Pillar of Fire specifically, you can put Pillar of Fire down, you can move it in the direction it wants to go, you can hunt down targets, but you don't get to just hit an entire line of, you know, entire Dwarf Gun line, an entire back line of undead, but it still keeps some strong use cases. So this is a much better change than I would have put in. I don't know why I didn't consider this. This is really, what's the word I'm looking for? This is a really elegant change, I think. There is going to be a little bit of arguing about what's the shortest route, so make sure that when you roll the scatter, or you choose the distance you're going in, and you roll the dice, make sure you measure it, point to where you think it should go, and get your opponent to confirm, and then agree where it should end up before you actually move the vortex. But otherwise, great stuff. Just bring an extra, like, template for the vortexes. That'll deal with that. 108. Casting spells. Change the first sentence of the second paragraph at the bullet point. So you can cast a number of spells equal to their level of wizardry per turn, but can only attempt to cast each spell once per turn. Okay, so now you can only cast a number of spells equal to your level of wizardry. So previous, I think it just said you can only cast each spell once per turn, but the change here is that you can only cast, a level 4 wizard can only cast 4 spells. That is big, because there are a lot of ways to get extra spells. Normally, to be fair, normally you'd only get 5 if you're looking at like a spell familiar, and you don't cast all of them. You know what, I take it back. I don't know that this is necessarily big, but this is nice just to trim off the edges, make any outliers less egregious. Wonder if your changes... Wonder if the changes to infantry might mean you might change your ranking in regard to the Jade Warriors. Very, very likely. Strifey says, wait until you get to the Pillar of Fire entry. Okay, maybe they've killed Pillar of Fire. I think the Vortex change is a good one in general, so we're not getting those ridiculous, like, it just goes through a million things. Casting roll, casting result, and casting value. Change the second paragraph as... Okay, so the casting wizard's level of wizardry is divided by 2. Okay, so you're casting... The bonus you get is your level of wizardry divided by 2, rounding fractions up, and added to this roll to give a casting result. So level 2 wizard gets +1. A level 4 wizard would get +2. So level 1 and level 3 wizards are now much more valuable than they were before, because you were paying for the +1 to cast, but in combination with the casting spells, a level 3 wizard with a spell familiar is less valuable than a level 4 wizard, because you can only cast 3 spells instead of 4, even though they've still got the same number of the spells that they're able to... Sorry, the same value of plus to cast. Okay, that's cool. Miscast here, page 109. Barely controlled power. Change the last sentence as follows. However, the wizard cannot cast any more spells for the remainder of the current turn. Okay, that's very good. So this is basically, if you were playing a wizard-heavy army, and you miscast, and you got anything above a 7, you would get the spell off. Either on an 8 to 9, you get it off at minimum value, or a 10 to 12, you get it on at maximum value. You weren't able to cast any spells, including bound spells, for the rest of that turn, which is very punishing. This change means that you're unable to cast with that specific wizard, so armies such as Mortuary Cult are less at risk of blowing themselves up, and given the other nerf here, which is that they're, you know, not getting +4 to cast, they're getting +2 to cast. Okay, that's an interesting change. You think this was always intended, says Matthew. That's... yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm here for a change that just clarifies and changes things up. And then I'm assuming that the way this works is the same as for dispels. So if you fail to dispel on an 8 or 9 with your wizard, that wizard's no longer able to dispel anything else. But if you have other wizards, you're able to do another dispel with that wizard, assuming they're in range. Cool. Page 110. Wizardly Dispel. Change the second paragraph to wizards that are fleeing or not on the battlefield cannot be nominated. Great stuff. So as it stands, or before this FAQ, you could dispel with fleeing wizards. There was no downside. And that felt really weird to me, because I think in previous editions, if you fled, like, your remains in play spells stopped, and also you just couldn't dispel or anything. If they are engaged in combat, they can only be nominated to dispel spells that target them or their unit. Okay, so that's a buff. Right now, if you're a wizard in combat, you can't dispel anything, so you had a weird situation where you could have 2 wizards that were trying to do assailment spells into each other, and they couldn't stop each other from casting the assailment spell, which is a little bit of a flavor fail. This also means you can have a wizard in a unit if you want magical protection for the unit. You don't have to go for magic resist, you don't have to go for an item that bounces spells back. I like this. This is a good change. Yeah, this is cool. Then you get, really thematic, wizard duels. Dispel roll and dispel results. Change the first sentence of the second paragraph as follows. If you are attempting to wizardly dispel, the dispel roll is modified by... Okay, so this is just... So you're only dispelling at +1 if you're a level 1 or 2 wizard, or +2 if you're a level 3 or 4 wizard. Just the same here as it was for the casting roll value, but they're making it clear that it's the same. That is good stuff. Dispelling remains in play spells. The second sentence of the first paragraph. To do so, you may attempt to... okay, so when there's a spell has been cast... You then choose to either make a fated dispel or a wizardly dispel, as long as you're in range, or in the case of a magical vortex, within range of the template representing the spell. This is really good for anyone who isn't undead, I would say. So one of the big things that's a real pain to play around with, especially illusion casters. Column of Crystal has a very high casting value. You were almost never getting the Fated Dispel off, and your opponent could cast the pillar, so it was blocking your unit, be out of your dispel range, and then you just never get it off because they'd run away, or they could reserve move backwards. This is a really good change. I really like that. So now you can't just pin someone in place while having your wizard in the back lines. Ward saves representing magical protection of some sort. They're made in the same manner as armor save by rolling a d6. Cool. So I think this is just to... Yeah, rules that affect armor values do not affect the warding values unless stated otherwise. This is not a change in how it actually plays. This is a change in just clarifying, because if you remember at the start of the edition, people were saying that rules that affected armor saves also affected ward saves, because a ward save was an armor save, but it was different. So, like, the whole Plague of Rust reduce ward saves? This just clarifies that it doesn't. This is better wording. Hopefully, when we come around to the second edition, they just copy and paste this. This seems pretty bulletproof from my very quick glance onto it. Okay, great stuff. Some huge changes already. Some big changes to casting that I am a fan of. You love the changes to casting. Keep level 4s valuable in terms of what they know, but they don't just outclass people in casting. Yes, and you still have the extra range on the Dispel threat as well. Scott says, should I buy in Field 4 Empire Great Cannons? JK, first time I've caught a stream, lovely work. Thank you, Scott. That's really kind of you to say. What a great time to be playing the Old World, eh? This is so much fun. I love FAQ Day. So, page 145. Fighting rank. When two opposing units are engaged in combat, any row of models, be it a rank or file, in which one or more is in base contact with the enemy is a fighting rank. Okay. I don't know that the fighting rank was properly clarified before, so just having it clarified here is good. Any model that is within a fighting rank and within a number of inches equal to its movement to the enemy unit can fight. This represents models closing in on the foe. Okay, so this kills Linehammer, and I've talked about this a couple of times on stream. The picture that really upset people on the Warhammer Facebook group, where Andy had like 70 Longbeards, and I had something like 26 Boar Boys in one unit. That's dead now, but that's okay. That was only for fun. It wasn't actually good. This is a big nerf to... Like, the better your movement, the worse this is, the less bad this is for you. So dwarves really suffer from this, whereas elves, if I wanted to fight really deeply, I could go wide with elves, for example, with movement 5, because they've got 25 mil bases. So anything with a 30 mil base and a low movement is really punished. 25 mil bases, an inch is slightly over 25 mil. So assuming that your unit is corner to corner, I would have 6 models on either side of the unit that I could strike with. So if you are, you know, a 5x5 brick of clan rats, and I am a 17 wide line of swordmasters, all of my attacks get to attack into you, assuming that you are fully in the center. So that's quite... I don't like this. This is clunky. This is clunky and punishes slow units where they're already punished for having a low movement stat, and movement is the most important thing in the game. So I don't love that. Supporting attacks. Models whose weapons allow them to make a supporting attack can do so if they're the rank and file directly behind the fighting rank of the unit and within a number of inches equal to their movement. They can't make supporting attacks to the flank or rear or by a model itself in the fighting rank. Okay. So this has been rumoured. This is the two ranks of attacks. So I guess spears then just go up to a third rank of attacks, which I'm sure we'll see later on down the line. This is interesting. So it's still got the fighting rank, which means that we're going to have to get really precise with measuring. This is going to slow the game down. I like 2 ranks of attacks. I think they probably needed some way of limiting the amount of attacks that you can make into your opponent. I don't know if I like this way. That said, I don't have a better way of doing it, so... Okay. What if you move 4 gobos? If you move 4 gobos... Yeah. Okay, charging units. Change the second sentence of the first paragraph as follows to represent this. Modifiers gain a modifier to their initiative characteristic during the combat phase of a turn in which they charge. Okay, so we probably just need to have a look at the wording on charge here. So, charging units, page 146. because that's a change out of combat context. So, which line are we tweaking? The second sentence of the first paragraph. Charging into the enemy gives a considerable advantage. To represent this, every model within a charging unit modifies its initiative characteristic. Okay, and it's been changed to models gain a modifier to the initiative characteristic during the combat phase of a turn in which they charge to a maximum of 10. And it was... I don't know what that matters for. I don't know what that matters for. Oh, yeah, sorry. So thank you, Steve. So this is for models that can make us supporting attacks. Okay, I've skipped ahead in the FAQ in my head. So this is saying that spears get worse, basically. Old school stupidity is back. How dare you, Calamity? Just because I misread a sentence. I then missed my mouth with my coffee. It's now a Cambot phase, only not the whole turn. Okay, cool. Thank you, Tonk, for clarifying. So yeah, I guess just clearing up anything where if you had to make initiative tests, you technically had bonuses or something like that. Cool. I'll move on from that one. Unless someone lets me know there's something weird about it, we can probably move on from that. Then all of this stuff was in already. The fly rule has been changed. Change the first paragraph of the rule as follows. Except when following up or pursuing, a model with a special rule can choose to move by flying through the air rather than moving across the ground as normal. When it flies, use a special fly move. Oh, okay. Okay, so what this means is you can't... This clears up how following pursuing works. I like that. I think this wasn't clear before. And there's definitely been situations when people have asked me, do I use my fly move here? So you can't fly over the top of a model with a follow-up or pursuit. Good stuff. If that is how it was before, my apologies. It's been a hot minute since I've thought about using fly for pursuit moves, because it doesn't actually come up that often. Okay. Frenzy. Change the first paragraph of the rule as follows. During a turn in which you made a charge move, or during the turn after it made a follow-up move, it has +1 to attacks. However, it does not give this to mount and vice versa. So this is just a nerf. Instead of getting +1 attack all of the time, you get +1 attack if you charge. Okay. Maybe they're thinking with big infantry bricks, frenzy becomes a real problem for people to deal with. So I'll hold judgment on this change for now, because that feels unnecessary to me, but maybe with all of the other changes it actually became a problem in their testing. And this one here is one of those things that make you go, oh, this shows me they've done extensive testing, because this is not a change that I would make. This is not a change that I just expect someone else to make. This to me says that they've done pretty extensive testing, and they found that actually infantry with lots of attacks that were charged were just able to wipe things that charge them. So, yeah, we'll hold judgment on frenzy for now. Impact hits. Change the second sentence. Impact hits are resolved against the charged unit when the combat is chosen before issuing challenges. Hell yeah. They hit automatically and make the use the unmodified strength of the model making them. This is really nice. So it always felt weird that chariots could get challenged out and just, get stuck in combat, basically, with a big brick of infantry. This is something a bit against it. From what it sounds like everyone's saying, it sounds like infantry get much better. So having chariots as a natural counter to infantry, I think, is great. Chariots are really slow across the board. The good ones are slow. Almost no chariots have swift stride. So, huge fan of this change here. Because, I want the game to slow down in terms of movement, and I'd like there to be infantry being good. Chariots coming back into the meta because they're good against infantry, but they're weak against cavalry. So we've got a nice rock, paper, scissors that doesn't just involve, oh, I guess we're going to have dragons all of the time. Banner of Angry Lancer's dead. So change to frenzy is just Furious Charge. Yeah, it's like an additional Furious Charge, I guess, but it doesn't have the 3-inch range change there. Okay. Impetuous. Change the rules as follows. If during the declare charges and charge reaction subphase of its turn... So, this is the thing that everyone gets wrong. People do Impetuous at the start of turn. Remember, it's during your charges phase. It must make a leadership test. A leadership test! Yes! This is so good. This makes Dragon Princes so much better. Impetuous with a good leadership is less of a downside than impetuous with a low leadership, and that just makes thematic sense, and I love that. It does mean that you can bait people with impetuous by hitting them with necromancy spells and lowering their leadership more, but that's fine. Corn Demons viable with this impetuous charge. I find Corn Demons to hit like a limp sock, and that's really sad. But maybe I'm going to have to go through everything and reconsider. Could you clarify the initiative thing, please? I think the initiative thing, someone said, I think it was Tonk, was just saying, instead of getting the initiative for the whole turn, it's only for combat. So if you have to make initiative tests out of combat, there's a reason there. I don't think it makes much difference. I think it's more just a neatening of the rules, as far as I can tell. But if anyone does have some sort of like real-world implication of when this would matter, please do let us know. Large targets. Large targets do not benefit from partial or full cover, that's the same. In addition, units can draw line of sight to a large target over or through another unit and vice versa, assuming that they're both also not large target. Finally, a unit that shoots at a large target can shoot with 1 additional rank. Okay. Right, it used to be that just everyone could see a large target, so if you had 100 poison goblins, all of those goblins could shoot a large target. Does this mean that they're dead? I guess you still volley fire if you stood still. But this is a really big nerf to poison shooting bricks. With the exception of Royal Host. Royal Host doesn't care because it always volley fires. Although it's still worse. Interesting. Are dragons back on the menu? Obviously I said, you know, the Age of Dragon is over. Does this mean the Age of Dragon is back? Maybe not if you combine it with stuff like the combat res bonus. But, yeah, okay. Poison attacks. For each roll to hit of a natural 6, a model with poison attacks make them apply a +2 modifier to one of the rolls to wound. Ugh. That's bad. Okay, poison shooting bricks are dead, I think. This is... I'm going to have to do some maths on whether this is good at all. This makes the big shooting bricks worse. I think it might make units with poisoned attacks in melee that don't lean on poison but want to boost their output better. Like anytime you've got Armor Bane on there. So the one that jumps out at me immediately is the Plague Drones. They might get a bit of a boost, and by a bit of a boost I mean an incredibly large boost. Well, get in the bin, stupid Tomb King Archer brick. Weirdly, that Royal Host brick might actually still exist. That's the only one that might still exist. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some maths on whether that works at all. Steve says, dragons are back. Hell yeah. The Age of Dragons is over. Long live dragons. Scott says, yay, Mathhammer. I love Mathhammer. I'm a nerd for Warhammer maths. Specifically, stats involving D6 is the maths I like. Poison Banner Gauze. Poison Gauze, now quite good. Oh, Poison Banner Bestigores, maybe. Actually, the best thing that this would be... So you want this on a unit that has moderate strength, good AP, and Armor Bane. That's where Poison really shines. Maybe Bestigores are the way. Maybe they're the truth. If we see like a load of like T4, T5... No, it wouldn't be T4. It'd have to be like T5, T6 stuff. Bonuses to wound is still generally good. Yes, I absolutely agree. Are they good when you only get them on a roll of a 6 when previously you were getting an auto wound instead of a bonus to wound? I would say probably not, but we will find out. I'm going to be doing some maths and some tables. Alright, regen. Change the rule as followed. After the wound is lost but before the model is removed, you make a regen save. If the save equals or exceeds the regen, but it's still counted. Okay. Right, so this has been changed from... So if you're hit with a D3 plus 1 wound cannon, they would roll the damage, and if they rolled a 2 on the D3, and they do 3 damage total on the D3 plus 1, you'd make 3 regen saves. I think that's how I understand it. I think that's... I think I really like that. Obviously, you're less likely to just out-and-out blank things, but regen where you can just remove little bits of damage, it's less spiky, but it's more consistent. And I'll always plan around consistency. So if I'm playing a High Elf Dragon with the Seed of Rebirth, and you hit me with 3 cannons, the chance of me rolling no 5s is higher than I like, but across the 9 wounds that you do to me on average, I'm probably rolling 3 5s there. So I prefer this version of it. Now I have to regen each lost wound, not each attack. Yeah, I prefer that version. It's how other games do it. 40k does it this way. So, big fan of that. It's how it should have always been. Yeah. I like this. Seems better. Great. I'm glad we're all in agreement. You guys make lots of sense. Okay, stomp attacks. Change the second sentence to, they're attacks made in combat that must be made last. After all other attacks, including attacks made at Initiative 1, hit automatically and use the unmodified strength of the model using them. Why is that different? What's different about that? Because I think that's how they worked already. Let's just have a very quick look at stomp attacks here. Strike at Initiative 1. Oh, okay. So previously they were Initiative 1, and now they're after everything else. Okay, sure. Yes, of course they were. But in reality, it almost never came up, because most things don't have Initiative 1, because I play Elves. So even my Great Weapon Lord was hitting at Initiative 6. Cool. Stacks up more combat res against a regular unit. That is interesting. That is true. I guess the overkill still wouldn't matter for multi-wounds into single wound infantry. Stupidity. Change the first paragraph and the bullet points as followed. Unless fleeing or get engaged, you must make a stupidity test. Leadership at the start of turn subphase. If failed, you are stupid. You can't move. Okay, that's a change from the random move. Cannot shoot or cast spells. Cannot wizardly dispel and must hold. That is a significant nerf. I'm okay with it. That's how I think stupid should work, but that is a big nerf. Now my favourite unit in the Dark Elf book, which is Cold One Cavalry, may not actually be worth taking, and that's upsetting to me. But maybe we take some Blackguard instead. Something to dig into. Yeah, okay. Swift Stride. A unit that consists entirely of models with the special rule increases maximum possible charge by 3, and before making a charge, flee, or pursuit roll, may choose to apply a d6 modifier to the result. I think that's the same as it was previously. I'm not really sure why this is blue. Unless it just... maybe it doesn't say entirely within, or something like that. We'll see. Page 180. Vanguard. Units that make a Vanguard move cannot declare a charge during the first turn. This is good. Old World is too fast. And I know I play all Cavalry, and I know I play all Dragons. But, yeah.
Thank you for coming on and telling me what to think.
You're very welcome, Entropy. You're very welcome. It's okay. I'm working out what to think myself. Tell you what, while we're taking a very quick pause, let's just have the chat box on here on screen as well. I think, let's undo that one. Go like that, and then if I just grab the chat box, put it up to the top. Are you going to play ball with me? No, you are not. Alright. Never mind. The chat box stream is dead. We don't need that. It's fine. I'll just read you the comments as they come up. Warband. Warband cannot use the modifier to the leadership, so you get your plus rank bonus to leadership. You can't use the modifier to leadership if you make a restraint test, or if you're impetuous when testing to see if it must declare a charge and may act as normal. I like that. Basically, this is still a buff to Orcs and Goblins, because instead of taking a 50-50, they, on their impetuous units, they get to make like leadership 7 or 8 rolls for most units, and you don't get to use the stacked up warband modifier to add to the test there. That's super reasonable. Cool. Quick turn. Unless it marched, the unit that is open order may pivot around its center to change its facing by up to 90 degrees after moving during the remaining move's subphase. Again, what's different about that one? That seems the same to me. Quick turn. Unless it charged, marched, or fled, and this says unless it marched. Oh, and this just changes it so it's remaining move subphase. So we get rid of the charged and fled. So basically you don't get a pivot after any sort of movement shenanigans.
Put yourself a coffee. It's going to be a busy day.
Thank you, Steve. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I'm going to be mainlining coffees. I've got a coaching session after this stream, so it's going to go stream, coaching session, immediately full dive into into all of the changes and then start making some content about it. Probably starting tomorrow. I think I'll allow myself to sleep tonight, and then I will hit the grindstone hard tomorrow. Okay. Skirmishes in combat. Skirmishes will maintain this close formation until combat is over. So this is just clarifying how skirmishes work in combat. Alright, let's have a look at skirmishes in combat, which is a real messy set of rules in general. So we're changing the second paragraph. So right now it says, which the skirmish formation. Okay. So what they've done is they've added, at which point the models must separate, moving the smallest amount possible to once again adopt skirmish formation. Interesting. I guess they're saying that skirmishes can't be base to base or something like that. Not really sure how that makes it. Skirmishes and charging. A unit of skirmishers may charge an enemy unit that is visible to more than half of the models when it charges. Ah-ha-ha! Okay. And if any skirmishers are unable to form up, the unit is considered to have lost coherency, as described as page 184. And I think lost coherency is just the same as what we've got at the moment, where if you fail to make the charge, you remove models from play until only a single coherent group remains. Yeah, that's fine. That's the same as it was. So basically, we're adding skirmishers have to be able to see 50%. Now, I'm assuming there's going to be another change to skirmishers on the next page where there's facings. It doesn't say there. Okay, because if it's 50% of the models have to be visible, but they just keep their 360 line of sight, this is not much of a change. What this does is it stops you from doing interlocking shenanigans like this, where you go units of Pegasus Knights, one at the front, one at the back, and you interlace them so that they both get -1 or -2 to hit using the cover rules against shooting, but they're still able to see to charge. It only works on units that are melee, skirmish, and have fly, so it's really only Pegasus Knights or Warhawks. So I'm assuming they get a front facing, but if they don't, this rule is kind of not really a change. It does remove that abusive factor, so we'll see. Regular infantry rules. Change the entry as follows. Page 190. Hold on. Regular infantry. Is this page 190? So, change the entry as follows. Press of battle. Is there anything on here? I may have to actually pick up the... open the PDF. Give me just 2 seconds to open the PDF, and we'll just make sure that we're all on the same page. Because I'm not 100% sure exactly what this is referring to. I don't want to just read it blind. I want to make sure that we've got the context going in. So if we open up this PDF here, this can go to this slot on the thing, and it'll load at some point in the next... Here we go. Fit it to screen, and then we're going to go page 190, which is never page 190 of the PDF. So here we go. Right, so the change... We can close that. Press of battle. Change the entry as follows. In the heat of battle, orderly ranks become a swirling melee, except during a turn in which you charge. The fighting rank has this rule. So you don't get this rule when you charge. Okay. You are arrayed in combat order in not one but 2 ranks deep. Okay, so if you charge, you fight in 1 rank. If you don't charge, you fight in 2 ranks. So the second rank is a fighting rank considered to be in base contact, so you get multiple attacks. Okay. So regular infantry rules. And they've removed this here, which says no additional rules apply. And they go, actually, yeah, you get an extra rule. Regular infantry get to fight in 2 ranks. So this applies specifically to regular infantry. Does it apply to heavy infantry? Yes, it applies to heavy infantry. It doesn't apply to monstrous infantry. Okay. So, regular and heavy infantry getting a big glow up here. Monstrous infantry don't. Massed infantry. Numbers alone can sometimes overcome the foe. When determining combat results, if one side has a higher unit strength than the other, you get +1 combat res. Okay. So right now, we've gone from dragons capping combat res at 7, to capping combat res at 6, and infantry get an additional +1 combat res, which means your standard of close order, rank, banner, outnumber. If you put a war banner in there, you're always at least tying with a dragon. So every army in the game, without putting a BSB in, and outside of maybe demons whose BSBs are weird. Yeah, basically every unit is able to, at baseline, beat a dragon in combat without any other changes, so that's huge. Parry with sword and shield, so specifically sword and shield, so too bad, so sad. Sorry to hear that you got multiple nerfs spears. While engaging in close combat, a model with this rule that is equipped with and chooses to use a hand weapon and shield improves its armor value by 1 to a maximum of 3+. This is big. This means that you can have heavy armor shield infantry, which is like the majority of the non-elite core heavy infantry. I know this is under regular infantry, but it applies to both. So if you want something that's relatively tanky, you can have heavy armor and shield, and you still get a 3-up armor save in combat if you use the hand weapon and shield. That's a really big defensive bonus. Most AP caps out at 2, so you're still getting a 5-up save. If you're saving a third of the incoming attacks, and you're fighting in 2 ranks here, and you're getting an additional point of massed infantry combat res, infantry have massively gone up. These are huge changes. This is absolutely massive. You can now weather a charge to the front much better, and cavalry are probably going to have to put a lot more investment into being able to just charge and beat a unit of infantry. They're going to really lean on stuff like first charge and actually have to use their special rules, other than just having a high movement stat and swift stride and then lances. So that's really cool. Just wait, there's a change coming up that really hurts dragons. Okay, cool. Great stuff. Great stuff. Yeah, I'm all for it. As a dragon enjoyer, I'm all for dragons getting worse. So, heavy infantry, we've just seen that we get all of those. Sweet. Need you to re-review every army, but mostly Dark Elves. Yeah, the plan is to do that. Weapons of war. The first sentence of the second paragraph, however, war machines can freely pivot around its center and immediately before shooting the better to face the enemy and may make a follow-up move as normal. Fantastic. Previously, you could technically pivot a war machine once per turn at any point in the turn to better face the infantry. So if you were deployed correctly and your opponent was deployed incorrectly, you could turn 1 pivot onto the hill or into the wood so you could see and shoot, turn 2 shoot, and then you could pivot out of the wood to better face a different unit, but so that you actually weren't going to be shot back. So this, just clearing this up so that it works the way that it should do, is a fantastic change. They have skirmish anyway. They do. It's not necessarily about the actual ability to shoot. It's about the ability to pivot into and out of terrain, basically, that clarifies things up. Does this mean if you're defending from a charge, you get second rank attacks, how that affects cavalry? Yes, yeah, you do get... So, let's say I've got Swordmasters. You charge me with a unit of Empire Knights. The initiative comes out in the wash. Let's say maybe it's not Swordmasters. It's another unit with worse initiative. You kill all of the front rank, but not the unit champion. Okay, cool. So the unit champion gets to make attacks back, but also so do all of the eligible models in the second rank. And you better hope that I don't have 2 attacks on those models, because I'm going to be getting a lot of attacks coming back at you. A video on just infantry would be pretty good in regards to the new rules. Oh yeah, I think that will have to... And do some sort of like, have you considered running flagellants? Probably not flagellants. They were the first one that came to mind that was funny. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Okay, great stuff. So good change here. This just standardizes and normalizes something that most people weren't abusing, but it's nice to have fixed. Page 209. Enemy shooting. A character that has joined a unit of models of the same troop type as them cannot be targeted by enemy shooting unless there are fewer than 5 rank or fire models. Okay, so this is the same. Right now, if you've got 5 models, 5 rank and fire models, and you've got a character in a squad, that character can't be allocated hits up until you're below 5, and all of the shooting attacks are done at the same time with the same weapon. So if you're in a 5 model unit plus a character, you're safe. What they've changed this to is you no longer get Lookout Sir. And it changed here, sorry. Changed the first sentence, the same troop type. Yeah, so you can't, if you are on a horse or a demigriff, for example, in a unit of Empire State Troops, you don't get Lookout Sir. And if you're a Tomb King player, and I don't know if they've changed the other bit, but if you're a Tomb King player putting chariots into a big brick of Royal Host models, those no longer get Lookout Sir. They can be sniped by cannons. This is a really big change. On top of the 500 point cap. So maybe this is enough to make that Royal Host brick bad. Or not bad, but like not worth playing, given how kind of dull it is to play. That's really cool. I do dislike a little bit that, you know, we get the thematic, like, Empire captain with a BSB on a demigriff inside a unit of state troops. That's a victim of this as well. But honestly, it makes sense. Like, you probably shouldn't be able to hide within a rank of infantry if you sat on the back of a giant beast. Yeah, this is a good change. This is a good change. Tiggity says, thank goodness I never stopped playing a brick of 20 warriors. I have about 50 to 70 Chaos Warriors. Like 40 of them are built and painted badly because they were from when I was like 15. And then I've got like 20 or 30 on sprue. However many you get in the Warriors of Chaos battalion box. So I'm super hyped to start putting some actual rank and file Warriors of Chaos on the table. Managed to ditch your meetings to come see. Hell yeah. Hello, Amy. It's exciting times. It's exciting times. Page 211, challenges and mounts. Delete the second sentence and then add the following note. Note that if either participant is slain before the rival or a mount makes an attack, these attacks are lost. Okay. That's a big change. Let's have a look at challenges and mounts. I might have to go into the actual PDF for this one because it's not coming up as the... page 211. Right, let's go to 211 is... And which sentence are we getting rid of? It's this one, sorry. Delete the second sentence. So, if the rival participant is slain... Oh, so we lose the overkill attacks. That's all it's saying. That sucks, because elves have high initiative and strikes first, so even with a great weapon, I'm always going to attack before the dragon. Do I stop giving it a weapon? Do I just give it like a burning blade to deal with ethereal and hope that I don't kill the unit champion so my dragon gets to attack? That's... If the participant is slain before the rival or a mount can make an attack, these attacks are lost. I think... As that worded, if, let's say I don't kill the character with my lord, the way this is worded makes me think that I'd make my dragon attacks, and then even if it kills them, I'd make the stomp attacks. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe that's just dragon cope. Big change. Really big change there. Okay. Flail. Change the weapon profile as follows. Strength +2, AP -2, Armor Bane 1. The strength modifier and Armor Bane only apply against enemy models that wield a charge this turn. Okay, so that's the same here, new here, and then this is the same. Only it's clarifying it's the wielder charge this turn, not it's if you charged. So specifically, you can't charge another unit, get flank charge, and then use your flail to extra output. I think I'd have liked to have them leave the Armor Bane on there. AP2 Armor Bane 1 strength user would have been fine, but sure. Okay. Chaos Lord with flail, which is the budget option you probably have to go for if you're going on a dragon, is a little bit better. Cool. More than one combat weapon. Change the first bullet point. So if you're engaged in combat with 2 or more combat weapons, you must choose which weapon it fights with at the start of step 1.1 of every choosing to fight. Yeah, so this is one that I had, someone had told me had come in. So you can go from using, you don't have to use the same weapon if you make a choice and then combat doesn't go the way you expect it to, and you get charged or you overrun. Like, you've got flexibility. You can use that hand weapon and shield without worrying that next turn you won't be able to kill something. So that's really nice. I like that. Xendy says that's cope. Okay. We'll dragon cope. That's fine. Doesn't that also affect following up in your opponent's turn? I think so. I think following up counts as charging for the bonuses. I think that the Lisbon Temple Guard is going to love the changes to Halberd and be able to change weapons between combat rounds. Let's have a look at Halberds then. Halberds are Strength +1, that's the same. AP -1, AP2 in brackets, Armor Bane 1, AP2, the turn it charge. Okay, yeah, that's a really nice. So, Temple Guard and Warriors of Chaos with Halberds actually have a reason to use them, because right now, or before the FAQ, both of those armies had AP1 on their hand weapon attacks anyway, so all they were losing was 1 strength, but in return they were getting +1 to the save, and with the parry they'd be getting +2 to the save. This means that you've actually got a reason to go for the halberd, because you're going to be AP2, and AP2 is really nice. That is like the gold standard for AP in this game. So AP2 halberds on the charge. Am I expecting to charge with infantry? I don't know what the game's going to look like, so I'd have given you a flippant no yesterday, but right now, maybe. I hope so. That's cool. Morningstar is Strength 1, AP 1, Armor Bane 1, Strength and AP are on the charge. So this is the same as the Flail change, but it's for Morningstars. I think the only Morningstar in the game exists on Bretonian characters, so I'm not super worried about that. People aren't running them, but it just makes sense that they keep it, keep it consistent. Nothing in the Force of Fantasy FAQ Phoenix card, just have a bad halberd. That's really funny. Flails was also extra strength for the first round of combat, so you didn't care so much if you got charged. Oh, that's a good point. So it's actually a nerf if you were getting charged with your flails. Interesting. So, like, maybe it's good on Marauder Horseman and worse on everyone else. So you're losing 2 armor save for 1 strength and 1 AP on charge for Warrior. Vladicard, yes, but you then also get to go to hand weapon shield the turn after. So you can go in, try and crunch their front rank with your initiative bonus, so you're attacking first, you're getting attacks in, you feel really good about that. And then if you get, like, stuck in a grindy combat, you can go, okay, halberds didn't do enough to win me this, let's swap to hand weapon and shield, minimize the amount of damage that I'm taking back, and still hit them relatively hard. Cool, cool, cool. Lance. Cavalry monster only, so just remember you can't put these on chariots. That's something that took me ages to learn, and people definitely get wrong. Can only be used on the turn it charged, and the modifiers only apply against enemy models that wield a charge that turn. So, funnily enough, if you follow up and are able to use your lance into the unit that you followed up, and you get flank charged, the model on the far left of the unit that gets flank charged is able to use the lance, but it just counts as a hand weapon. So, that it doesn't really have a rules effect, other than every model has to use the same weapon, so I guess it's good that they did it that way. But yeah, that's cool. I like that. You're also fighting in 2 ranks with halberds right when you charge. No, only 1 rank when you charge. You don't get the extra rank of attacks when you charge, I'm pretty sure. Let me just double check that one. Let's have a look here. Unless I'm talking out my backside. Except during a turn when you charge, the fighting rank is 2 ranks deep. Yeah, so you only get 2 ranks of attacks on the turn you charge. But, you don't get 2 ranks of attacks on the turn you charge. So, maximum armor value. Oh, here we go. Regardless of the armor it wears or the equipment it carries, there's a limit to how well protected the model can be, with the large models proving much harder to encase in armor with the smaller counterparts. True. Infantry and cavalry can never get better than a 2+. Sure. Chariots, monsters, war machines can never have a better than a 3+ save. This is a good change. Again, this is a nerf to dragons. The dragons were, at the start of the edition, too good, and at the middle of the edition, too much of a gatekeeper, so I'm happy to see this change. Any bonuses, regardless of the source that would improve, have no further effect. So this just clarifies that even if you have, like, a 1-up save, it doesn't overwrite modifiers, so you can't have a 1-up save that, like, eats the first AP2 that you deal with. Great stuff. Dead or fled. Each enemy unit that has been reduced to 25% of its starting unit strength or less at the end of the battle, or equal, is worth 50% of its points. Okay, so dead or fled, I'm pretty sure it was only 25%. Let's have a quick look here. Dead or fled. Yeah, so previously it was 25%, now it's 50%, but also it's saying that dragons below 25% give 50% of their points. So this is a huge nerf to those big single models that were really hard to get points out of. If you get a dragon down to 2 wounds, basically you get half its points, and that's a lot of points. And I will say, it was rare for me to end tournament games with dragons dead outside of certain matchups, but it was very common for me to end up with dragons on 1 or 2 wounds just running away. Dark magic changes are perfect for my teleporting chariot gang. Hell yeah. Pillar of Fire, here we go. Change the 3rd, 4th, and 5th sentences of the spell. Right, let's take a moment, have a look at Pillar of Fire as it stood before these changes, and then we'll hold a moment of silence for the probably dead spell. So, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, right? So right now, remains in play. Sentence 1 still exists. Place a small 3-inch blast template within 12 of the caster. That still exists. From this point on, we have new rules. Whilst in play, it's difficult terrain. Same. It scatters D6 during every starter's turn. Any model that moves through takes D3 plus 3, strength 3 hits with an AP of -2. Yep, there we go. That's the spell probably dead. Maybe it's not dead, but it now becomes a Vortex, and Vortexes are bad. Damage Vortex spells are bad generally, and Vortexes have been double nerfed, so I think Pillar of Fire might be dead. It's been hit with the patented Games Workshop triple nerf. There's the banhammer. You're going to stop playing Pillar of Fire. Again, me, a dragon and Pillar of Fire abuser, very pleased to see this change. Arcane Urgency changed the spell casting value to 9. So I guess the leaks were true. I did not understand this one, but there was nothing in there about changing the casting level of, level 2s, level 4s, so this makes sense. Curse of Cowardly Flight down to 8. Okay, so most of the lore stays the same. So Fireball stays on an 8, which means... You know what? I'm gonna do a video about magic. I don't want to get too deep into it here. We'll look at the ones that have changed. We won't look at the ones that haven't changed. Fireball, you now need a 6 to cast, is interesting. Okay, Steed of Shadows goes to an 8. So if you want to fly around the board with your infantry unit, you can do still, and that's going to be much stronger. Demonic Vessel. This is the +1 strength, AP, and attacks spell. That's a really good spell right now. This is now, you need a 7 on the dice, unless you have other modifiers. That's very doable. Vortex of Chaos. Difficult terrain, scatter D6, takes damage. Whoa. Now I have to look at Vortex of Chaos. I'm not sure what's different about this one, because Vortex was a scatter. So we're changing sentences 3 through 5. So it was dangerous, moves in a difficult direction, and it takes friend or foe. Oh, have they just changed it to friend? So it's difficult terrain. Oh, it was dangerous as well. Okay, so it's changed from dangerous to difficult. It scatters, that's the same, and any unit that moves through the template suffers D6 +1 strength 3 hits, AP 0. Okay, sure. So basically, it's no longer difficult. That's the main change. That is the main change. Francisco says, this is a nightmare to track. Honestly, the rulebook has become obsolete at this point. I'll be honest, Francisco, the rulebook was obsolete as soon as people started collating the rules in better ways. Shout out to tow.whfb.app, a great website that collates all of the rules. Infernal Gateway, change this spell to 9. This is your, like, travel mystical pathways, but specifically for characters. Cool. That's dark magic. Elementalism. Flaming Sword goes to a 7. Flaming Sword is bad. Summon Elemental Spirits. This has been changed to be difficult terrain that blocks line of sight. Okay, so it's basically just all vortexes are going from dangerous to difficult. Sure. Earthen Ramparts goes from a 10 to a 9. Okay. Travel Mystical Pathways. If you're not fleeing and you have not already moved, you may immediately remove it and replace it anywhere completely within 12. Yes! Yes! Holy Within. Holy Within. Damn. I've been wanting this. I've been wanting this for a long time. Feels, honestly, a little bit rude that Arcane Urgency wasn't nerfed and Travel Mystical Pathways was. I'm so excited I've got hiccups. Give me a second. Alright. Hopefully that helps. Yeah, so interesting that TMP is Holy Within, and Infernal Gateway, which is the same spell but only for characters, is not Holy Within. So you can still do shenanigans. It's much harder to do, but yeah, that's a good change. Prepare for some hype to fix my list this Friday. Oh god, my brain is going to be melting out my ears. Finally, TMP is dead. I don't think so. I think it's still good. A 12-inch move that you can completely change your facing is still really, really strong. It's just not as abusable for the big poison units that are also dead for multiple reasons. So they hit the poison units with maybe not even a triple nerf. Maybe it's a quadruple nerf. I'll have to go through and count. Oh, okay. Very happy about this. Shield of Safri going down to an 8. This is the award save, but for your turn only. This is fine. High magic probably gets some more value, but we'll talk about that in a specific video about magic. Change the spell's casting value of Confounding Convocation to an 8. Confounding Convocation. I'll be honest, I can't remember what Confounding Convocation does. Do I care? Do I care? This is an illusion spell. This gives you Stupidity. Stupidity's worse now, so it gets easier to cast, and it's a slightly better spell. Sure. I guess it gets harder to cast, technically, because you're getting less bonuses. Miasmic Mirage going to a 10+. Cool. No change to Column of Crystal. That's interesting. So if we look at... and I know I said I'm going to look at these properly later, but I just want to point out... So Column of Crystal goes off on a 10. That's really hard to cast. And Spectral Doppelganger on a 9. Illusion's now kind of difficult to get spells off on. I don't know. It's a shame. I like Illusion. Exciting times. It is exciting times. I'm a big fan. Deathly Cabal, casting value of 8+. Cool. Spiritual Vortex, cast it on a 10+, and the 4th sentence. Alright, let's have a look at Necromancy. Just make sure we've got the context who this change. Spiritual Vortex it was, wasn't it? So the 4th sentence goes from being, while within 8 you suffer -1 leadership to a minimum of 2 and can't use the Inspiring Presence, to now within 8, 1 or more. This specifically doesn't stack. Okay, that's good. That is good. I think there was wording that they added for hexes never... Oh, I guess this probably would have stacked previously, yeah. Anyway, it's clarified to not stack, whether or not they fixed it previously. And Curse of Years down to a 9. Curse of Years is quite a nice spell. This is a hex to give you -1 weapon skill, toughness, and movement, which is just a lot of value. So Necromancy, still a good lore. Fist of Gork and Mork goes to an 8, that's fine. Here we go, goes to an 8, that's good. This is one of the ones that you want to be getting off consistently. Foot of Gork, it becomes difficult terrain instead of dangerous terrain, and otherwise I think is unchanged. Ogre Blade to 75 points. Okay, yeah, I wasn't expecting that to be true. Now you can't run it with Talisman of Protection. I don't think that change needed to come in. I think we're fine without that. I think we just needed to see other stuff that was worth taking. But, you know what, sure. We'll see maybe a little bit more in terms of foot characters or mounted characters with interesting weapons. And the characters that we're using this anyway, looking at you specifically, Chaos Lords on you know, Chaos Steeds, still going to run it because you've got a ward save built in anyway. Ruby Ring of Ruin, plus 35 points. Oh, bound levels are going down. Okay, so Ruby Ring of Ruin can cast Fireball as a bound spell with power level 1. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It was pretty omnipresent. I don't know if it needed a points nerf, just like the amount of people who were taking it dropped from basically everyone at the start of the edition to like 40% of people or 50% of people now, but I'm not opposed to a 5-point nerf here. I don't think it's going to cause me any issues in terms of stacking all the things I want on a caster, but maybe I want different things, so I'll have to have a look at this. That's okay. Page 344. Oh, and then this is just changing the quick reference sheet. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. Sweet. Sweet. Bound 1. Yeah, but keep in mind that that's equivalent to a level 2 wizard, so that makes sense. Bound 1, but casts having halving, so it's kind of the same. Yeah, and nerfs are different. Did you see the new puppet changes? Haven't even got there. We're just on the first PDF, so let's whip through and have a look at everything else. FAQ. What happens to a scatter roll if any part of an object crosses beyond the edge of the battlefield? It's removed from play. Cool. Nice to see that standardized. These ones will probably be pretty quick. I don't imagine most of these will actually have a game effect other than clearing things up. So if it's got to use a leadership test using its own leadership, can it use the generals? No, that makes sense. Do some special rules require a leadership test to the counters being used even if the test has failed? Good. Yes, this is how it should be. This is how I want it to be. This is not how it was clear. And there were conflicting versions, and if you were playing something like the Horn of Isha, you had to have like a bit of an uncomfortable conversation with your opponent and being like, well, do I get to... Is my special rule better than you think it should be, or is it just worse than I think it should be? It was a poor middle ground, so glad to see this quantified. And it's the way that I think it should work thematically as well. Can different saves be combined together to improve their save value? So if you've got 2 ward saves, do they stack? No. 2 values of a target number cannot be combined to lower the target number. Makes sense to me. How many spells can a wizard attempt to cast during a single phase if they know a magical vortex and a magic missile? So they can cast a number of spells up to the level of wizardry per turn, but they can do multiple spells. Yeah. So this is just feeding into what we saw right at the start of this document, where they're saying you can cast, if you're a level 4 wizard, you can cast 4 magic missiles if you got them, but you can only cast 4. If you've got a 5th one, tough luck. Remains in play with 2 casting values is cast at the higher value, which should be used when trying to dispel. It's always the lowest one. Yep, that's the same as it was, and this is just nice to see it clarified. Sure. How many remains in play spells can I attempt to dispel during my conjuration phase? As many as you wish, or perhaps more accurately, as many as your opponent has in play and as many as you are able. So this doesn't overwrite only having a single fated dispel. So if you're not in range of being able to dispel your opponent's spells, this doesn't overwrite it, but if your opponent's got 6 vortexes up, for example, I don't know why they would, and you've got a wizard in range of all of them, you can go, I'm going to try and dispel this one first, and then this one, and then this one. But still, only one fated dispel. That doesn't overwrite that. Cool. If a single model here we go. If a single model unit straddles 2 arcs of an enemy unit wishes to charge, is it always considered to be in the arc that gives the least advantage? So this is the way that it was. This is only the case when you cannot determine which arc of an enemy unit the charging unit is within. If it's clear that the majority of the charging unit is within one particular arc. Nice! This is not how the rule was previously, and I'm really glad that they've changed it. Again, this is a slight... I guess this is actually a buff to single model units. But previously, if like 1% of your model was in your opponent's front arc, and the rest was in a side arc, that dragon would have to charge the front, and that didn't really make much thematic sense, and it could make it quite difficult to actually complete the charge in some situations. This just makes more sense here. If a unit charges an enemy that is defending a low linear obstacle, can it stop on top of the obstacle? No, as stated on page 270, the charging unit moves into base contact with the obstacle. Yeah, sure, that makes sense. Shooting. Can a model that chooses to stand and shoot cast magic missiles or magical vortexes? No, obviously not. But again, cool. Glad to see that clarified. Because someone's going to have that question, and if they check the FAQ, it just saves us from being asked. Models cannot cast magic missiles or magical vortexes after marching, but does this include bound spells? Answer, yes. Sure.
Ed or feed.
Hello, Scribble. Good to have you. How you doing, buddy? Thank you very much. If a unit's fighting rank is engaged with 2 enemy units, one of which is a lone character engaged in a challenge, can model within the unit's fighting rank ignore the character, even if they are closer to it than the other enemy unit? Okay, so if you're not in a challenge, you can't put attacks against models that are. In other words, any models that would normally have to direct their attacks against the character are free to instead direct them against the other unit. Cool. Good stuff. Can a close order unit of just one model claim the close order combat result bonus? Yes, assuming it has a high enough unit strength. I think I would have been okay with them just saying, no, you can never get close order for a single model, in terms of, like, the actual +1 bonus. It's not the end of the world. We'll see if Chaos Lords on Dragons still just, you know, run around terrifying everyone. But right now, that's basically the only thing that hits that. Okay. Oh, no, there's more. If one participant in a challenge causes impact hits or stomps where they're directed, impact hits are before challenges, that's why this has changed, and then stomp attacks are may be directed against the other participant in the challenge. Okay, so this should say must, because it makes it sound like there's an option. I'm pretty sure there's not an option. I think you just have to hit the person in the challenge, so I'd rather that wording was more precise. When it counter-charges, it rolls d3 + 1 to determine how far it moves. Is this roll counted as a charge roll? No. Okay, so you can't re-roll it with, like, the Bretonian Warhorse special rule. That's fine. It doesn't stop you from getting the charge bonus, but the roll itself isn't re-rollable. That's cool. Units with the fly special rule engaged in combat, can it use its fly characteristic when determining which models are close enough within the unit to fight? No, you have to use your base. Ooh, okay. So if you've got, for example, a unit of Warhawks that have gone really wide, although they are skirmish, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, so basically if you've got a flying model with a low movement and a high fly movement, you get less... Interesting. Interesting. Conta says, just got here, herd poison shooting is dead. How is Double Wyvern for Orcs and Goblins looking from this first read? I haven't even got to the army-specific changes, buddy, unfortunately. Who can say? Who can say? Behemoth's, like, ridden monsters seem to have taken a little bit of a nerf in terms of what we're seeing. Okay. Warbeasts and Swarms fear models with the flaming attacks. Yes, even though the flaming attacks, I think this is just the same as last time. I think this has just been left as blue. I'm not seeing any change there. And it's the one that we puzzled over last time, and it was not massively a problem. My skinks re. Yeah, I think skinks are pretty sad, honestly. Skinks are pretty sad. Units with the Motley Crew special rule use the armor value of the majority of the models. If there's an even number? In such cases, use the better armor value, not including the armor value of any characters or champions that have purchased magic items. No! My Tuapai almost saved Minotaurs. Oh, they've stopped the bullshit. I mean, that's super fair. This is a good change, but I liked being able to do ridiculous things with that. Okay, this is better for the health of the game. It's worse for me as an individual. A lot of these changes. A lot of this stuff is terrible for me, but really good for the game. So we can live with this. I'm going to open my window. It's starting to get real warm. All right. If the winning side of a combat includes one or more models that cause terror, do models on the losing side that cause fear or terror suffer the -1 modifier to leadership? No, because they aren't terrified of terror-causing models. They do not suffer the effect of terror. I was actually super unclear on this one. And my opinion on it changed. So for the first sort of year, I had been playing it as they did take -1. And then for like the last sort of 6 months, I played that they weren't. And I wasn't 100% sure which was right. So nice to see this actually clarified. Maybe that's one where it's entirely possible that I was just being a bit dumb. Motley Crew wording is interesting. So rank of 7 up front with the 2 characters. You still need 3 with the 3 plus of the remaining 5. So for the front rank, let's just quickly go back to it. Keep in mind that you'd only use the armor save for the majority of the front models, but you would ignore this one, right? Yeah, so I think you just go, if there's 4 rank and file and 3 characters, including a champion, you just take the and the champion has magic items. It's only the ones with magic items. I think you would just use the numbers there. But yeah, that's something I'll have a look at in more detail later on. Let's get through. Okay. This is a change. Can my BSB have a higher leadership than my general? No. This means not upgrading the character with the highest leadership to be your battle standard bearer so they can be your general, so be it. This is a change. Like, if you were running the Sisters of Avalon Death Star, where you have a noble with a BSB, a leadership 9 BSB, and then you also had a leadership 8 handmaiden, you can't do that anymore. That's just gone. I think the Sister Star taking a big hit, which is fine because I didn't want to play it. But yeah, there's a lot of changes to Sisters specifically. Can a character that has joined a unit of models for different troop types be targeted by enemy shooting? For example, if a character whose troop type is light chariot joins a regular of infantry, can they be targeted? Yes, what's more is they don't get a lookout save, sir. So you can just straight up shoot the chariots. I think I may have missed that bit. Obviously, we saw this earlier. I think I may have just skipped straight to the lookout, sir. Relevancy of it. You can just straight up shoot them. So the characters on chariots within a unit, Death Star is dead, and I'm here for it. Although it looks like you can still do it, but you're just punished for doing it. So that's a better way of doing it, I guess. If a character joins a unit that carries a magic standard to its effects extend to the character, yes, they become part of the unit. Cool, love that, great, nice to have that clarified. Lords of Magic. If the spell Arcane Urgency is used to move a unit with random movement, can it move into contact with an enemy unit? So no, this is the same as before, but this is just clarifying, because random movers can only move into base to base in the compulsory move subphase. Arcane Urgency moves you in the remaining phases, therefore you don't get to go and double attempt to charge. Good to see that. Can a unit with Earthen Ramparts make a countercharge reaction? No. Cool, that's the same as before, but clarified. When deploying armies, units must units be placed completely within the deployment zone. Yes, everyone played it this way, but given that it said within and not wholly within, it was technically not clear. No one actually played it that way. Okay, if a unit charges an enemy unit upon which Earthen Ramparts has been cast, much as it follow all the rules for charging an enemy unit behind a defended low linear obstacle, even though there is no such physical terrain between the two units. Oh, okay, so this clarifies that you not only lose I believe, you'll lose the initiative bonus, you'll lose your multiple attacks, and you'll lose your stomps, because you can only do it to people in base to base. That's a massive nerf, and I know some people were playing Earthen Ramparts this way. Rules as written, that's not how it was, but now, and I'll have to actually read this one through and make sure that I understand that correctly, but I'm pretty sure now Earthen Ramparts absolutely ruins monsters. You'll laugh at the last FAQ. Okay, hell yeah. Caffeine Clown says, I just opened this video and the first thing I hear is no, they've stopped the bullshit terrible for me, great for the health of the game. Yeah, absolutely. As you can see, I'm really not broken up about the things that I've been using and honestly abusing becoming worse. I'm a big fan of that. It makes things healthier. There's always going to be stuff that's too good, and we'll find it. We'll find it, and I'll tell you about it. But yeah, the stuff that was too good currently is gone. Or a lot of it anyway. Fnatic's still okay as not charging. I I'll have to reread the wording of Earthen Ramparts for Fanatics. I don't want to get into the weeds on that one, because that's probably not like a very clear answer. We'll get into that one later. Laughs in Steam Tank, ignores low linear obstacles. Hell yeah, I'd love to see more Steam Tanks on the table. Big fan of that. Force of Fantasy or Royal Host? Ravenous Hordes first. Have we got a preference? Hold on, let me make a poll. I can probably do that, right? Start a poll. Or Forces of Fantasy. It's going to be in caps, I don't care. Ravening Hordes. Start poll. Cool, I'll just leave that running while I look at the rest of the FAQ. What happens if a scroll of transmogrification is used on a bound spell? After testing against the item's power level, it may be turned into an inanimate frog, turning it useless. Oh, amazing. You are right. Is that the last one? Yeah, I love that. So you can frog a ruby ring, and that's incredible. I really like that. So during each start of turn, you may roll a d6 for each transmogrified item to see if it returns to normal, as described on page 343. So if we just go scroll of frog, skull of frog. Let's have a look here. You may roll a d6 for each wizard. On a 4+, it returns to normal. So on a 4+, I can get my Ruby Ring of Ruin back. That's really funny. That's really funny. Okay. Sure. Love that. All right. Sweet. Good stuff. Well, I'll leave the poll going for a couple of moments. How are we feeling in general about the changes? What happens if a chariot tries to charge the unit? Can they even complete the charge since there's an imaginary low linear obstacle? Yeah, so low linear obstacles, you would hit them, and you don't go over them. So I don't think you'd take any. There's no risk of you taking wounds even on the chariot. So I think you're fine. You might lose the impact hits though. In fact, you definitely lose impact hits because you're not in base to base. Man, Earthen Ramparts has gone up in my estimation. I know Travel Mystical Pathways just got nerfed, but is Elementalism the best lore in the game? Too early to say. Pillar of Fire being nerfed, and Earthen Ramparts getting a big buff. Some interesting changes. Some interesting changes there. Let's have a look. While you're here, if you haven't already, give the stream a thumbs up. All of that good stuff helps get picked up by the algorithm, yada yada yada. All the good things there. Let's close the poll. What are we looking at? Right, for some reason, I've closed the poll and it hasn't told me what the answer is. Who won? I'm going to trust you, chat. Who won? Earthen Ramparts just went from C tier to higher than C tier. Yeah, like something like Swordmasters with Earthen Ramparts is going to be real good with their incredible just stat line, basically. 49 to 51 for Force of Fantasy. Thank you, Flacod. Appreciate that. Jade Sentinel becoming a frog. Oh, that is funny. That is funny. That would be rough. That would be rough. Alright, good stuff. Let's go straight to the Forces of Fantasy then, and we can go to here. Okay. So. Let's have a look. Huge buff to Empire Magic item to cast Earthen Ramparts. A single use, but it didn't decrease the power level of the bound spell. That's cool. That's cool. I like that. Monsters still look good. Interesting. Interesting stuff. Right, Force of Fantasy, starting off with the Dwarves. Strike the Runes. Change as follows. It casts the following bound spells with a power level of 2. It used to be power level 3. It's now power level 2. That's fine. If anything, that's a buff, because it went from being effectively a level 3 wizard to a level 4 wizard, in terms of level 4s only having +2 to cast. Rune of Oath and Steel. Change the casting values to 8 and 11. So you cast it on a 6 or a 9 on the dice. If it's cast with an 8 or more, you may re-roll any failed armor save rolls. Yeah, cool. That's good. Just rebalancing there. Hearth and Home is an 8 as well. Ooh. Does that mean that the double move spell didn't go up? I'm going to have to open some more PDFs. Let's close this PDF, and we will open up another one. Let's see here, because I think they've rebalanced 2 of the rolls for dwarves. I don't think they've rebalanced the third one. And the third one is the... Oh, there might even be 4, but I think there's only 3 that I've ever thought about casting. Let's have a quick look here. Anvil, Anvil, Anvil. It would be under characters. Let's see here. So Oath and Steel, Hearth and Home, Haste and Urgency, yeah. Haste and Urgency still on a 10. You need to roll an 8 on the dice. That's pretty rough. Wrath and Ruin staying on a 9 is the same. Hearth and Home. Wait, Hearth and Home... Did Hearth and Home get nerfed? They nerfed Hearth and Home. It goes from a 7 to an 8. Well, that's rude. They've nerfed Oath and Steel as well. And it's the first sentence. Reroll failed armor saves. Damn. Harsh. Dwarf players out here seething. As they should be. Interesting. Interesting. That sucks. Isn't bound level 2 +1 to cast, or is that actually +2? I think the power level isn't like relative to a wizard now. It's just it casts as if it's power level 2, so you add +2 to dice, right? Damage spell doesn't change value across all. Yeah, that's fair. Common Dowiel. JTY going around to Dowie's After Dark house and pissing in his chips. I think Richie would love to have a conversation with JTY. I think he'd be exactly the sort of person who would be great to interview the game designer. I think I might be too critical about things in terms of like... I'm generally very favourable about them, but I might be too critical on some issues. Whereas I think Richie would have a better time talking to a game designer than me, because I might lose my mind over stats. That's what I'm trying to say. The things that annoy me about the game, I think I would have less... I'd have more difficulty holding back on. Dwarves will be fine. Okay. What did you miss? You missed all of the base game changes, but we're just starting on Forces of Fantasy. We're going to go to the Ravening Hordes after this one. All right, cool. Hammerers get Grommel armor. Cool. That's good. Hammerers can have hand weapons and shields, right? Let me just... there we go. So if we go down to Hammerers, they come with hand weapons and shields, or maybe you have to buy the shields. So Great Hammers, Heavy Armor, they can take shields. So you can get up to a 3-up save, and you can flick between them and the Great Hammers, and they come with Grommel Armor now. That's cool. Hammers at 16 points a model. I think that looks pretty tasty. I like what they've done there. Let's close this one. Dragons are dead. Dragons are dead! Oh! Empire State Troop can sit on 10 combat risk with Griffin Standard and Warbanner BSB. That could get interesting. That's so fun. That's actually worth considering. Man, I can't wait to think about some infantry. Rune of Protection. Change this rule as follows. So let's just get the context of Rune of Protection. This is on Ironbreakers, right? So 6-up ward against non-magical attacks, and it becomes 6-up ward against non-magical enemy attacks. Non-magical enemy attacks. Hold on. Models with this special rule have a 6-up ward against any wounds suffered that were caused by non-magical enemy attack. Oh, okay. So they've changed it so if you put a character in there, it doesn't benefit from it with the wording of when a character joins, it becomes part of the unit. That's fine. Sure. Whatever. Rune of... Jordan says first charge rip. Just play better. Don't let cavalry charge your slow infantry. Parry is only for sword and shield, is it not? That is correct. Yes. So the Hammerers would use their hand weapon and shield and then swap to the great weapon, or the great hammer, I think it's called, when they want to do more damage. Trollhammer Torpedo, change it to 5, replace Dwarf Crafted with Cumbersome. That is rough. That is rough. I mean, I guess monsters are dead, so nerfing the thing that kills monsters is fine, but, like, I don't know about that. That feels... whatever. Page 39. Change the rule as follows. A model with this special rule may make a wizardly dispel. 24-inch range. Oh, okay, so you're still +3 to dispel on an Anvil of Doom. Right, this is good. Okay, dwarf players, stop seething. We're back. We're so back. So you get +3 modifier to dispel. That's the highest base modifier in the game. I don't think anything else from what I've seen has a +3 to dispel. That's really good. And it's still 24-inch range. So you're a little bit back at the edge of the board, but with vortexes coming forwards, okay, Anvil is actually good at dispelling things. We maybe don't need as many runes of spell breaking. Rune Lord is 21 inches and +2 to modifier. Okay, it's a mid-ground. And then Runesmith... hell yeah! So there's now a reason to run a Rune Lord. There's a reason to run an Anvil of Doom defensively. This is great. I really like this. I don't like what they did here, making it harder to cast the spells that maybe didn't need to be cast harder. But yeah, this is great. Big fan of that. Okay, cool. Sweet. Hell yeah. Empire. General of the Empire gets leadership 10. Captain gets leadership 9. Okay. This is good. There are some unintended changes here, where you now you can't take a BSB unless you take like a second captain, because I don't think there's anything else in the book that has leadership 9. Maybe Generals of the Empire. If I just go... let's go down very quickly, have a look at Empire. So we go to leadership 10, leadership 9. Wizards are leadership 8, so they can't be your general. Master of the Knightly Order. Okay, so you can have a Grand Master as your general, and you can still have a Captain BSB. This is fine. I'm super okay with that then. You can't have like a BSB and a Wizard Lord. You actually have to have a character. But look at how cheap it is. It's 45 points. Just give him the Dragon Bow. It's okay. That is fine. They've changed the Dwarf casting to Mass Wizard casting. That makes sense. That makes sense. Grandmaster's a 9-2. How is the spelling changed in general? Basically the same as casting. So a level 1 and 2 dispels with +1 to dispel. A level 3 and 4 dispels with +2 dispel. Grandmaster. Yeah, cool. Empire State Troop get Horde to State Troops and Veteran State Troops. Let's just have a quick look at if I care at all. I mean, probably do, right? Because there's loads of changes. So we're talking 5 points for a base model. That's pretty cheap. You give them shields. You probably don't give them halberds. You just bring them from combat res, right? You give them the Griffin standard. You get the leadership 10. All right, that's interesting. You've got a 4-up armor save in combat with hand weapon shield. That's not awful. Okay. Okay. I'll think about it. You know, we'll see whether or not it's worth doing, but we'll see. Great swords, strength 4 great swords. Oh, incredible scenes. That's so good. I still think greatswords are probably bad because they've got heavy armor, no shield, so they can't even benefit from the parry, right? Let's have a quick look here. Yeah, you can't give them shields. Oh no, they've got full plate. They don't have heavy armor. So the T3 with a 4-up save, and they've got strength 4. I don't think it's enough to make greatswords good, but maybe it is, like, stacked with all of the other rules that they've got. Yeah, super happy to see that. Super happy to see that. Okay. That's cool. That's cool. Big fan. Royal Pegasus goes up 10 points for Bretonians. Hell yeah. Let's just go to page 90, make sure that we're getting all the context for these changes. Royal Peg was +60, now it's +70. I don't care. I'm still taking 2 to 3 of these. I don't think it makes a difference. Peg Knights change the points to 59 and delete Lance Formation from the list of special rules. Okay. So they can't get the combat res bonus from Lance Formation. Not that it was usually the right thing to do, but I guess it was sometimes the right thing to do. Let's just go down to Peg Knights. Are they 54? 55 at the moment, so they're +4 points. I think that doesn't change Bretonia at all. Like, this change, he's still doing it. It's just the same list, and you lose maybe, like, a couple of upgrades somewhere. Falcon Horn of Frimond, or Fredimund, I should say. Single use and a leadership test. That's brutal. I would have been okay with seeing this go to single use, and it just happens. Sure. Burning Gaze becomes a 9. Oh, so that's a magic missile that actually does get a cost decrease. Let's have a look here. Burning Gaze is further down. Cast a 10 line magic missile, and now it becomes a 9. Sure, that's fine. Yeah, I think Bretonians have dodged a lot of changes, basically. And you've still got unit strength 5 for combat res on Lance Formation. So you only need 3 models, or I was going to say 2 Peg Knights, but Peg Knights lose it. Okay. Bretonian Dodge Nerf Challenge, 100% success. Yeah, I don't feel like this has changed Bretonian really at all. There is a world to say that maybe they get worse, because I think they don't have the output to deal with large static combat res against really tanky units. So we'll see if that makes a difference. But, yeah. Yeah, okay. Interesting. Yeah, going back to the skirmish change, there was nothing saying that skirmishes have a 90-degree vision arc, unless I've missed it. So I think skirmishing Peg Knights are still just as bullshit as they were. I thought skirmishes would get nerfed. Me too, buddy, me too. The Horn was a Bogeyman, not surprised it got hit hard. I'm really glad it did. Whether or not it was OP, it stopped loads of units from being played in the meta. So, seeing it go to a once per game, in line with the other ones, is really good. Now I can run Warhawks, for example. Who should I play as a first army? Chaos Warriors, Empire Man, or Orcs and Goblins? Kian, I have no idea on the basis of I haven't got all the way through. But if you push me for an answer right now, I'd say Warriors of Chaos with some sword and board warriors and maybe some halberds. They've removed some previous FAQs, specifically Lancers on fullback and good order. Ooh, okay. So what did they remove? That, like, if you follow up, you get to use your Lance, so that's just gone. Magic. Change the second sentence as follows. Every tree man knows spells from one of the following laws of magic. Alright, let's just see what they needed to tweak here. 1, 2, 4. Every tree man ancient knows spells from the following laws of magic. Oh, okay. So technically, it was like Ogdra's, where you'd know from multiple laws, and it just didn't matter. And they've just fixed the wording here, so you actually only know from one. Oh my god, Trace gets a wood. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Old World is Flavor Town. Yes, it is. Sign me up for some frosted tips. Alright, Deepwood Coven. Change the first sentence of the rules as follows. Units of the Thorn know a single randomly generated spell from battle or elementalism. You may discard it and instead select the signature spell. So they're just clarifying that you can take the signature spell, which battle magic basically means you can take Hammer Hand. That's the big thing that we're looking at here. That's okay. Right. Woodland Ambush, page 145. Once players have finished placing terrain, a Wood Elf Realms player may place one additional wood, measuring no less than 3 inches at its narrowest and no more than 9 at its widest point. Okay, like, I'm okay with this change. I hope they haven't fixed the Green Knight, but, like, while I like the L-shaped wood, I'm not upset to see it go away. That is the sort of like, gamey thing that you're like, it probably shouldn't exist. You were thinking some Chaos Corrupted Empire men so your state troops could turn around and double as Marauders. That's an excellent idea. Any time that you can do a modelling project that makes one army into 2 or 3, you are striking gold. Because additions change, things that are good change. Having a bigger pool of units that each model can represent is a really solid plan. If infantry has become better, means first charges become better, does that increase the value of stubborn / unbreakable? Probably. Yeah. Like, if you can blunt the combat of, like, a unit of knights hitting you in the front and they use their first charge and then you just absorb that with stubborn and then you go, now I'm going to win on combat res, that's probably pretty tasty. This is also before deployment choice. Yeah, that's true. That is true. So then I guess you place the wood and your opponent says, too bad, so sad, I'm going to take that part of the board. Cool. Forest Walker to a 9, Flock of Doom to an 8. So, again, let's just have a quick look at these ones. We don't necessarily need to look super in-depth, but Forest Walker is a spell that I like that is not super relevant. The main reason I'm looking is because there's obviously, I think it's a banner that gives you a bound spell that allows you to use Forest Walker. So, what's it going down from? Going down from a 10 to a 9. That's fine. Flock of Doom's still bad. I'm not going to look at that. White Lines of Trace. Add Furious Charge to the list of special rules. Oh, we're so back. Core Special Infantry with Furious Charge. Yes. I'm here for it. They can't have shields. That might make them not playable. But it's fine. I'm going to make him. The guy who, like, a year ago said that I didn't know what I was talking about because I rated White Lions in F tier. Maybe he's right. Maybe he just saw over a year into the future. Maybe that is how things are going to change. Who can say? Let's have a look here. Okay. Hand of Cane for a 179. Hold on. Let's have a look at this. 186. This is the really bad assailment spell, right? So it goes from an 8 to a 7. Single strength 4 hit, no armor, warden regen permitted. Yeah, sure, that's fine. Okay. Cool. Arcane Journal, Empire of Errata, Tutushan Guard, Guardians of the Temple. Delete Guardians of the Temple from the rules. Oh man, now I'm going to have to very quickly going to the to my phone, because I don't think I've got the Empire PDF on my PC. I just never got round to sending it over. So let me pull that one up. I think this is one of those rules where you can only be joined, or like you have to accept challenges, something like that. That's likely what the rule is. Tutushan Guard. Guardians of the Temple, they may reroll hit rolls of a natural 1. Wait, what? Did Tutushan Guard just lose a special rule? What? Interesting. Interesting. I don't understand why this has happened. They just lose rerolls of 1 to hit? Huh. Okay. That seems unnecessary. Sure. Sure. Alright, cool. Whatever. The trace detachment gets a wood. Previously, it was just difficult terrain. Now it's actually a wood, so you can block line of sight with it. This is really nice. And then Ring of Fury is changed to cast Hammerhand as a bound spell with a power level of 1. Hammerhand wasn't changed, so it's power level 7. You're still getting it off most of the time. Okay, that's okay. That's fine. The Wood Elf Errata, Fury of Athel-Loren. Spells casting value to a 9, down from a 10. That's good. Spiteful Torrent, they're just changing it so it's difficult terrain instead of dangerous, and then otherwise it's the same. And Dirthu's Wrath changed to a 9 as well. So the Magic Missile and the Assailment both going down in terms of casting value there. I think this lore may go up in value, but I think high magic is probably going to go up in value as well. Edmure Stock's rising. Good for him. Okay. Dwarven Mountain Holds FAQ. If I give armor runes to an Anvil of Doom, do the Anvil itself benefit or just the crew? Just the crew. So the plus toughness, like the T10 rune, I think stopped. Oh, this is a big nerf to the Anvil. It might just get one banged by cannons now. Interesting changes. Interesting changes. Let's just go back up to dwarves. What are the defensive buffs that they're putting on? I'm pretty sure the defensive buffs they're putting on are in the armor, but let's just very quickly check before we move on to this point. So talismanic runes, we can give it the Rune of Warding, so we can give it a 1-up ward save, or we can give it a ward against flaming attacks. But the armor runes, the 2-up armor save, the toughness 10, +1 wound, +1 toughness, immune to multiple wounds, the stackable ward save. Oh, Anvil of Dooms are going to really struggle with keeping those alive against ranged damage. Interesting. That's very interesting. Can the champion in a unit of Royal Clan Warriors or Hammers put weapon rooms on a Grom or Great Axe or Great Hammer? They can only ever go on a hand weapon or great weapon. That sucks. I mean, it's consistent, but that's a shame. I'd like to see the unit champions be able to buff up their actual weapons, which are great weapons in all but name and with like a very slight tweak. So it feels like some level of nerf having a better great weapon. Oh, does the Griffin standard allow for a unit to claim a higher rank bonus than normal for its troop type? Yes, this is how it worked. This is not how people, like some people were arguing, and now it's been clarified. So, yes. Even you didn't like cap out on rank bonus for having 1 rank, whereas now, if you have 3 ranks with Horde, you're getting +6. Absolute huge amount of combat res stacking. Empire Stonks going up a moderate amount. That's cool. If Harold Gimmerson issues a second challenge using his skilled duelist special rule, can he fight again immediately? Yes, it fights immediately. However, his mount may not fight, neither may his opponents. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? He can do 2 challenges? I don't know how I've never noticed this. Was he just, like, incredibly underwhelming as a model? Let's see here. Skilled Duelist. If he slays an enemy in a challenge during a turn in which he charged... Ooh, I've just gone sideways. You may immediately do a second challenge. Okay, sure. Sweet. Cool. A unit of Empire Road Wardens may replace its crossbows with braces of pistol for +1 points per model. If it does so, must the captain pay an additional +2 points to do the same? No, if the entire unit replaces its crossbows, that includes the captain. But if you keep the crossbows, the captain has the option to replace them or a repeater pistol. Okay, sure, that's fine. I did actually kind of wonder, because that was not very clear in terms of the way it was laid out, but good to see. Hey, Existence, how you doing? How are you doing? Nice, pretty gay, but it ties you to Ninth Panther. You did notice it during the review. Okay, thanks, Trey, for reminding me. I've obviously just forgotten it between now and then, because I've never seen him on the tabletop. He always gets shot through the eye. Oh, very good, very good. Bretonia, can a unit with defensive stakes be hit by impact hits or stomps? Yes. Okay. So basically, they stop not much. Okay, sure, that's fine. What happens to a unit in lance formation that declares a charge and it's blocked by the presence of an enemy unit to its flank where the unit gets wider? Accidental contact. You can wheel around, do so. If not, you can either charge into the enemy unit or as a redirected charge or halt. That's fine. And then Arcane Journal, High Elf Realms. Can Core-Hill Lionmane or a Tracing Chieftain join a unit of White Lions of Trace? Yes. Great. Great. I guess technically maybe they couldn't because they have a rule where you have to be either... You have to have either the Trace and Honor or you are the General. So they weren't previously allowed to. Rules as written. I think that was an oversight, and having that clarified here is good. That is good stuff. Okay, cool. Interesting changes here. Lots to chew through. Okay, so on to the Ravening Hordes. Let me just write a quick message to my coaching student that I should be talking to in 35 minutes. Can we push back 30 mins, please? But stream is running a bit long. Perfect. Hopefully he sees that. Okay, so we are now on to the Ravening Hordes changes. And we've got 5 pages here as well. First of all, release the Fanatics. Change the last sentence of the first paragraph as following. Unless it's fling or in marching column, a concealing unit may release one or more of its Fanatics during any start of turn subphase. So this deals with the more abusive things that you could do with Fanatics, where you just put a unit in marching column, you do a big wheel, or you just march forwards really fast and you don't care about the fact that the unit's going to die, so you suicide them forwards to throw out the Fanatics, which is not really in keeping with the way that you'd expect Night Goblins to play. I would expect Night Goblins to be very self-preservation focused, and they throw out the things that they don't care about, the hopped up guys, on fungus wine and mushrooms to keep them safe. So this is a good change in my opinion. There we go, and I'll just open up the correct PDF there. And I can close that one as well, so I'm not going to get confused. Cool. Okay, good stuff there. That's sensible. Not good for Night Goblins, but sensible. I think it's fine. Like, I think you end up playing them more defensively, but with the changes in the match play book, I'm expecting to see them played more defensively as it stands, because you want to have your core units alive for scoring. So I think, in reality, this is not much of a downside, unless you were trying to get super aggro with them, and I don't think that's how you want to play them now. Troll mobs. Change the option to take one of the following, and Motley Crew. Yeah, so this just changes it so that you're not just equipped with great weapons, you have, the models come with different stuff, so you can do multiple things.
The lack of a Ragnarok cost reduction is criminal.
Thank you, Amy. No, agreed. We've seen all these nerfs to dragons. They obviously didn't want to have a new top dog, and by dog I mean spider. The shareholders would be asking questions if dragons got nerfed and we stopped seeing dragons, but suddenly a really old kit that they're still selling for like 40 quid was flying off the shelves. Explain yourself. Justify how you've dropped the Ragnarok spider to only plus 50 points. Porco's Pig Sticker. Change the second sentence as followed, so you can only use it. The weapon strength and armor piercing modifications only apply only during a time in which the unit charged. So that's what it was already, right? Let's have a look at the Porco's Pig Sticker. Pig Sticker is first round of combat. Okay. So instead of the first round of combat, they're just changing it to if you charge. So that clarifies it nicely. Okay. Spidergate. Yeah. It's the worst place to find spiders. You trap you in your house. Brainburster changing to a 9. Mork's Curse changing to 7. Fine. Neither of those spells are the ones that I want to cast anyway. Pretty big that the good spells, specifically looking at you, Itchy Nuisance doesn't get a casting debuff. Page 59. Delete the restriction on the second bullet point as follows. Demonic Mount. Oh! Does that mean that we get... one more page. So Demonic Mount you can have aspiring champions on Demonic Mounts. Hell yeah. I don't know if I want to do that, but just more options is cool. I'm a big fan of that. Having more good cheap characters I think is really fun. And that gets you up to 3 wounds on the aspiring champion, which is pretty decent. Question about parry. The bonus is locked on Black Orcs and Iron Breakers with shield, it seems. Yes, it is lost on units that have full plate and shield already. That is correct. Okay, great stuff there. Change the restriction on the 5th and 6th bullet point. Manticore, Exalted Champion. Ooh! We can put Exalted Champions on Chaos Dragons? Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Right, hold on. 285. Because right now, it's like 480 for a Chaos Lord on Dragon. So 285. Let's go to... What page is it that I need to go to? How much is an Aspiring Champion? It's like 140-ish. 125. Oh, that gives you so many more points. So, was it 285? 285, I think. Let me just scroll back down. Because I've immediately got excited and forgotten. 285. That's 410 points for an Exalted Champion on a Dragon. Which is a 9-wound Dragon. But it has 90 points to spend on equipment. That's pretty interesting. And that's still like a Lord equivalent stat line. Your weapon skill 6, so worse. But you're still... Oh, it's a toughness 5 dragon. Oh, I'm immediately less excited. Interesting. Chaos can either take an unupgraded T6 dragon with 10 wounds, or a heavily upgraded T5 dragon with 9 wounds. One to think about. One to think about. Maybe you go double, like an Exalted Champion and a Sorcerer on Dragon. Now that you don't need level 4 for the casting value, maybe you can go like full T5 pressure. I don't know if that's good. Manticore's interesting. I'm pretty sure Manticores don't give you any toughness though, so putting an yeah, no toughness here. So putting an Exalted Champion on here, you get 7 wounds at T4. That's not exciting to me at all. It is cheap though. 245 points base. Oh, actually, that is really cheap. That's really cheap. Okay, that needs to be played around with. We'll have a look. And it's still a leadership test using their own leadership. Okay. We'll see. My Strength 5 Spider enjoys this. Impetuous. The Impetuous Chaos Dragon. Is the Chaos Dragon impetuous? I didn't even got to that bit. Chaos Dragon add impetuous to the list of special rules. I'd forgotten that from the list of rumoured changes. Okay. Oh, Chaos Knights get countercharge as well? That's spicy. I think the time of Chaos Dragons is... It's not like you can still play it, but I think it's gone from being like the be-all and end-all to suddenly we play a lot of cavalry bus, we play a lot of characters on horses, we do a lot of countercharging, we do a lot of ruining their day. Does the regular Chaos Steed have countercharge, or is that something that they've missed? Let's have a quick look here. So we'd have to go up to the Chaos Steed, first charge, swift stride. I think it got added countercharge previously. Yeah, oh, there it is. Okay, that's interesting. Countercharging Chaos Knights. That might be too good. Not too good, but like that's like such a strong line of play already. They're expensive though. I'm excited to dig into some Chaos. I think Chaos is going to be a really fun list to play around with. I can have a full countercharge Heralds of Darkness army. I don't care about the wizards. Maybe we look at that. The changes in the rules are insane. So many changes. Yeah, if anyone tells you that they have a full picture of what's going on, probably this week, they're wrong. I'm going to start trying to record some, like, how this affects your army, but it's going to be, like, these are the initial changes, this is what I think the changes are. I'm not going to, like, pretend to know the future. Oh, man, some really wild stuff in here. Really wild stuff. All right. Cool. So that's good. Chaos Trolls, I skipped past it. It's just the same as normal Trolls. Hell yeah. Diabolic Splendor, Infantry and Cavalry only. Enchanting Aura, Infantry and Cavalry only. Okay, so the -1 to be shot and the Strike's Last Aura can only go on Infantry or Cavalry. I was going to say that's not actually a change that matters, because you couldn't put it on the Chaos Lord on Dragon, but you could have put it on the Exalted Champion on Dragon, so... And a Toughness 5 Dragon making you Strike's Last would be quite nice, so this is actually a pretty impactful change. I like it on Chariots as well, and we lose that, which is a bit of a shame. Alright, the Infernal Puppet change. People have asked me multiple times about this one already. Unless the owner of the Infernal Puppet is fleeing or engaged in combat, they may use it when an enemy wizard that is within 15 of them makes a casting roll. Okay. That feels fine. I don't know if you take it anymore, but like that's a real change. That's a real change. Damn. That is a big big hit. You can't play super safe. I guess if you're going for like Cavalry Death Star, which with countercharge is maybe even better, maybe you don't care as much because you just aggressively move towards the enemy wizard, but it gives your opponent more counterplay to you. So, okay. Sure. Puppet would have been so good if it was still the same as it was before. Interesting. I like this change. I don't know if it still stays in the list. We'll see. Dragon Ogres, page 101. Change the points to 59. They were 56. Plus 3 points on a Dragon Ogre. I do not care. I will do this every day of the week. I think a 3-point change on a model that you're taking like 1 to 6 of, I'll eat that change. I'm not worried at all. Okay. And then we're going into Tomb Kings. Skeleton Chariots, change the points to 41 instead of 35, I think. If we're going to... oh, no, they're going from 43 to 41. Oh, interesting. This is the first time we've seen points going down. Okay, Skeleton Chariots going a little bit cheaper. Cool. Vortex of Soul, cast at power level 2 instead of power level 3. Great. Flail of Skulls. Now, just in line with the other flail change, let me just remind myself whether Flail of Skulls is a weapon that I care about. Flail of Skulls, strength plus 3, AP minus 1, multiple attack, multiple wounds 2. Yeah, that's not bad. Hard to combo it with something that matters, though. Okay, sure. Sure, that's good to know. And then Usep's Incantation of Desiccation on page 155. I think this is the one that summons skeletons. Yes. Oh, yeah, there we go. Incantation of Desiccation. Change it to a 9. Okay, sure. So it's the Hex that's minus 1 strength and toughness. But we don't see a nerf to the casting value of the Desert Winds. Honestly, 6 and 10 is probably fine. But Infantry's better. The Reserve Move banner gets some real value here for Tomb Kings, because you're going to find it a lot harder to get the plus 10 to cast. Okay. Interesting that the rumoured plus 1 to cast cap didn't come in, so Mortuary Cult are able to just cast. Even though they're only casting at plus 2, they can still cast at plus 6 once you factor in Sacrificing Wounds and the Casket of Souls. Puppet benefits from the reduction to casting level modifiers. Agreed. Oakenstave is strong now. Yeah, it was strong before, now it's stronger. Yeah, big fan of that. 3d6, oh, modifiers less value, dice more value. Yeah, huge. Huge. Alright, so not a huge amount of changes to Undead here. The Skull Smasher. Change the second sentence of the weapon. You must choose... Okay, so this is just saying, like, this is in line with when you choose your weapon, basically. So, just standardizing when all weapons are chosen. Fetid Whirlpool, it's now difficult terrain. That's, I think, the only change here. I believe the reason that they've gone 3rd, 4th, and 5th is just to make it so that you don't miss... like this bit in the middle, and then you skip all onto the actual damage bit. So all of the magical vortexes I've looked at, the 4th and 5th sentence I don't think has changed at all. It's purely the 3rd sentence, but they've made it clearer by copy and pasting the whole thing. Torrent of Filth goes down to 7, Rapid Regen goes down to 8, and Da'akra Axe is strength only against enemy models that wield a charge this turn. That's fine. I don't know that it needed to make that change, honestly. I think it's just standardizing the wording on what it was from before, but yeah, anyway, this is not a weapon that I'm super bothered about using. Warriors of Chaos, Storm's Wrath. Again, this is only against enemy models that wield a charge, so again, just standardizing that sort of flail-type bonus. Beastmen Brayherds. Okay, so, Beastmen Brayherds. Let me just very quickly pull up my PDF here. I think it's this one. Yep, there we go. Had a moment of like, wait, have I pulled up the wrong thing? So if I go to 140... So we're changing sentences from 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So, cast or dispel. So to do so, they add +1 to cast and dispel for each friendly wizard within command range. However, if they roll a natural double, something's gone wrong. And it's been changed to... Oh, and then where it goes. They may apply a +1 modifier to one or more that are not... so. Okay, so you're capped at the +1 modifier here. So you can't get more than one. If they roll a natural 1... Okay, so the bonus to Dark Coven is much worse. However, like, you can't go, I've got 5 wizards, here's +5. However, the penalty is much lower. It's only on a normal miscast, a natural double 1, all of the wizards that were buffed are hit. The result of the Brave Shaman, Great Brave Shaman that made the attempt, and to each friendly wizard within the command range. So it's not even the ones that chose it, it's just all within command range. Yeah, I like this change. We're seeing casting bonuses lowered, so this is just going down to, it's only +1, but the penalty is much lower. This is good stuff. Oh! Yeah, I forgot that Mortuary Cult was an Arcane Journal. So I've just talked about how it ignored it. Yeah. So Dark Coven, I really like this. You're probably doing this on every spell you cast, and you're just risking the miscast because it's a 1 in 36. Hell yeah. Strangle Root on an 8, and Banner of the Warp Moon, single use. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Super pleased to see that. Big fan. Sepulchral Animus. Change the casting rule as follows. Once per turn before making a casting roll. Once per turn. Once per turn. Let me just double check that the... Yeah, the Beastmen one's not once per turn. Mortuary Cult, you've been eating good for too long. Suck on this. To do so, nominate a friendly unit with the undead. So you lose a wound and you get +1 to cast, and it's once per turn. Suck on that, Mortuary Cult. You've been too good for too long. However, you still do have the Casket of Souls just applying a flat +1 to cast, so you're probably okay. And your Ruby Ring of Ruin is still casting at +2. That's okay. That's okay. Flail of Conquered Kings, just the strength for flails, and then Stone Shaper. Change the last sentence. Until the end of this turn, the nominated unit improves the regeneration value of its regen save by 1. So this is just changing wording because they've clarified that ward saves and regen saves aren't armor saves. They're their own sort of save. Plague of Rust doesn't affect them. Let's just tweak all of the wording where we've increased the roll. This is good. Not even once per turn per wizard. Nope, just once per turn. I think anyone who's been going to tournaments is not going to cry a tear for Mortuary Cult. And honestly, I think they're probably still fine. They're going to have to retool the list. I think Mortuary Cult is still in a decent spot because they have... they're a faction with a flat +1 to cast, which any way you can get that is incredibly strong from the casket. And then you can also go... I've got a unit of 3 swarms that I'm just going to suck a wound from every now and then and just go... That really important cast gets +1. Yeah, great stuff. Beastmen still have the kill dagger for plus bonuses. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, now I'm interested in killing Minotaurs. Now that I was only casting at +2, but now I can get up to +5. Sure.
As a Tomb Kings player, we are happy to have Mortuary Cult players learn to actually play the game now, lol.
Tanako, how rude. I'd never say such a thing against the valued members of our community who only play Mortuary Cult. What I would say is undead players should learn how to play the game as well. You're skipping out on it, you know. You're sat there not having to use fear, panic, terror, apart from when it's beneficial to you. Use all the rules of the game. Undead, that's what we should do. You know, we should unionize and rise up against Games Workshop and make undead have to take panic tests. Ogre's eating well with the Grut Sigil and Nobler combo. Yeah, true. Mort Cult is once per turn for the entire army, not per wizard. Yeah. Yes, it is. He said gleefully. I probably shouldn't be gleeful. If you're feeling sad about the change, I'm sorry. I think it's still fine. Don't worry about it. That was maybe me being a little bit too petty after having to play against Mortuary Cult for the last 18 months. Okay. Orcs and Goblins. Can a Black Orc boss take a Black Orc chariot as a mount using the Grand Army? They cannot. No! Oh! It was good. It was really good for the time that we had it. But it was always a little bit questionable. It was technically legal before, and now it's technically not legal. Pour one out for the homies with the Black Orc chariots. I've got one. I spent a lot of time converting it. It's a really nice model. But don't cry for what we've lost. Smile for what we had. For 18 months of a really, really bullshit chariot. Yeah, sorry chaps. Sorry for 2 seconds, yeah. Alright. Okay. Warriors of Chaos. Can the Infernal Puppet be used against a bounce spell? Yes. Oh, that's changed. Okay, so it's received a nerf, but it's received a buff as well. Man, I was too happy to laugh at the Infernal Puppet changes. Well, alright. It's what it is. What are you going to do about it? Wolves of the Sea. When fighting a warrior's dual challenge between the 2 unit champions, are things such as magic standards counted? No, it's just the participants. Okay, I think previously this was a yes, just in terms of it was assumed that it was, and now that it's not, they come out of their unit, they fight in the center of the board. That's cool. And then also, if they join Skin Wolves, do they get the Warp Form special rule? No. This is how most places played it. It's not how technically the rule worked, but I think it's how 99.9% of the community agreed it should work after the sort of initial, like, I found a cool thing, this is how it works, this is fun, and then after a little bit of, like, oh, actually, hold on, maybe this shouldn't happen. Is Nomadic potentially more viable with Impetuous changes and the nerfs to dragons? Like, Nomadic War probably just wants to be charging anyway, but if we're not seeing dragons, and I'm not sure if that's the case, I need to really sort of hammer down and think about this. If we don't see dragons anymore, this is a huge buff to Nomadic War, because Nomadic War can kill stuff that isn't dragons. They can kill most things that aren't dragons, so that absolutely huge changes there. They are using Orcs and Goblins leadership without Warband. That's true, that's true. Just make sure you've got some characters in or nearby. I can't remember if Impetuous was own leadership. Yeah. Any other changes here? No, that is the end of the FAQs there. So, some big changes. Some absolutely massive changes. Are we, how are we feeling about this? I need to wrap my head around it, because there is a whole lot of changes that have come in. But I think I'm really positive on how things have panned out. There's a lot of fun stuff in here. I'm very keen to get theory crafting. I've been playing around with rough ideas, and I've been doing some testing with the leaked rumored changes. So, like, I've got a bit of a head start in terms of getting to think, but there's a lot of stuff in here that I wasn't expecting. Like, I wasn't expecting the arcane urgency changes or the spellcasting changes to come in. So, yeah, a lot of really interesting stuff there. Matthew says, feeling very positive, a bit nervous about Brett's, but otherwise giddy. Yeah, Brett's... Here's the thing. Bretonnians seem to have basically dodged all of the nerfs in reality. Like, obviously, there are some actual nerfs that hit them, like points changes. I don't think it's a big thing. I think we maybe should have seen some hits to, for example, the Frontier Axe. That's probably too good at 30 points, and by probably I mean it's like way too good. Way, way, way too good. If I just go to this one, has that fixed it? Yeah, no, way, way too good. So, not hugely in love with that, but maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine. More coffee funding. Thank you, Andrew. That's
More
very
coffee
kind.
funding.
I'm going to be drinking a lot of coffee. I've been generally trying to get out and touch some more grass recently, because I've been feeling like I've probably been sat on my backside too much, blood pressure rising, eating too much crap. So I've been getting out and exercising. So I gotta probably take it easy on the coffee and not cause my poor overworked heart too much. But yeah, huge fan of all of these changes. Like, I don't think there's anything in there that I'm like, I'm sad to see this. There were a few in there that I was like, I don't necessarily know that this has to come in. But yeah, really, really fun. Strafey says, I'm excited to meet me on Warhol. I will not have time to be... I think I'm going to be doing some very quick test games, rattling through some stuff, doing a lot of talking, doing a lot of recording. I'd love to be playing some games, though. Seaguard actually good. I don't know what the meta's going to be. Maybe. Rat Bastard, you have your cookies, though. That's true. Oh, yeah. Warpstone biscuits going all the way up.
Great
That's good.
stream, Ty.
Hey, thank you, Matthew. Appreciate that. What else we got? Feeling good about this. I'm eager to drop my shittier skeleton warriors now because I want to run a big brick. Yep. That's good. I want to see Tomb Guard on the table.
Go Timoji.
Thank you, Entropy. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Yes, I agree. These changes are the goat. That's these are good. There's a lot of fun stuff in here. There's a lot of pressure on Squarebase to update the Renegade pack. Well, that's for them
With
to
the changes
work on.
to infantry in general, do we think we'll see more of the cool high elf stuff like Swordmasters and Phoenix Guard?
I really hope so. Now, a little bit cynically, one of the reasons I was super happy to be the high elf player for England is that I was like, well, if infantry get better, high elves have some of the best infantry in the game. Do I end up getting to play Swordmasters? As time has progressed, I've come to the conclusion that I really like the concept of infantry in core, and things that buff infantry that make them better Probably going to be good there. I might struggle to see infantry out of core. Phoenix Guard, maybe. I know they didn't get the better halberds. However, they are the only unit that can take the Banner of Resilience without having to put a champion in there. So if there's a build where you go really heavily on denial, and you just want, you know, here's my toughness 4 unit of Phoenix Guard with a 4 up armor save and a 6 of ward against non-magical attacks, or it might be flaming attacks, whatever it is they have. They have some sort of conditional ward save that I forget about all the time. I think there's some interesting stuff in there. I'm very keen to see how this shapes out. Yeah, there should be some fun stuff. Risking a wound to try and force through a 10 to cast for an S-spell isn't great. That's not the rat way. We should always be using our biscuits and always be suffering the consequences of them, because that's what rats do. That's what rats do. Is it possible that infantry will be back on the menu? God, I hope so. That would be amazing. I'm not. I will say I'm not actually certain that they will. You know, we gotta see. But yeah, I'm feeling relatively positive about it. Everything's moving around. Fetid Whirlpool also makes it AP3 from AP2 and make it so moving through units does the damage too, but only to enemies. Oh wait, hold on. Have I missed that? Is that something that needs to be tweaked? Let me just have a quick look here. Let's go back to Fetid Whirlpool. Moves through the template, or that the template moves over. Oh, is that just the standard wording? Crap, have I just missed that? Have I completely scuffed it? Let's have a look here.
Great stream. Hope GW will let you rest now.
Thank you, Strifey. Appreciate that. And they will not, because my work is just begun. The night is dark and full of terrors, and also me recording videos until 4 in the morning. I think probably from tomorrow I'm going to start trying to put out content about the FAQ once I've wrapped my head around what all the changes are. I'd like to do a video for every faction. I don't know how realistic that is, but that is something that I am aiming to do. That is a thought that I have had that I want to try and do. Enemy unit that moves through the template or that it moves over. Great stuff. Pillar of Fire. Moves through or moves over. Okay, yeah, we've changed the templates. Vortex of Chaos that is still hitting enemies, still hitting allies is very funny. Pillar of Fire only hits enemies. I missed that on the first run through. Thank you, Amy. You've pointed that out, and I had completely missed it. Foot of Gork is friend and foe. You'd expect that to be for yep. Cool. Moving through the template and taking the damage makes sense. I did wonder why they changed it from dangerous to difficult, but this is good. Vortex is not as bad as I thought. These are, you can now put them in front of things and have some better. Not this new standard, but Pillar has that wording. Yeah, I think it's just everything has that. 1 faction a day, knock it out in a fortnight. Peter, that is not the plan. The plan is to try and do 3 a day. But that might kill me. So we'll see how we go. We will see how we get on from there. There's a lot of scope for me to do some dumb stuff to myself. Unfortunately, in terms of the timing, and I'm not saying it's unfortunate that I'm going. My brother's stag do is coming up. And I've got quite a few other commitments booked in, so it's going to be a real juggling act. But yeah, we're gonna see how we get on here. Shone has become a member. Thank you so much, Shone. Really appreciate the support. There's absolutely no need to. I want to try and put out everything that I can. I want to, and I can't promise that things will stay the same. But my current thinking is I want to try and keep as much as I can not behind a paywall. I want to keep it all just sort of open and available to everyone. You do not have to become a member. If you want to support me, I really do appreciate the support. Again, no expectation to. If you do want to support me without giving me money, feel free to, leave comments, thumbs up the video. That really helps me get picked up by the algorithm, all of that stuff. And then there's obviously the memberships. If you do want to become a member, there is, for anyone of a Longbeard or above tier, there is a VIP section on the Discord, but otherwise the Discord is open to everyone. I will be honest, I mostly engage in the VIP section just because we're up to 800 plus members, so it's hard to keep track. It's very fast moving. And obviously there is the Patreon for coaching as well. So if you are interested in coaching, if you want to get some, try and work out what the best stuff is, get some games locked in with me, we can absolutely do that. Like I say, I've got one with Ed, who I will be doing a session with in 35 minutes, so we're gonna be breaking down some stuff and trying to play a game. I think that's gonna be fun. Peter says, you thought you were being sarcastically ambitious for the one video a day? No, I'm going to kill myself. I shouldn't say that. They're not serious. Not actually going to. That was a poor turn of phrase. I'm going to work myself to exhaustion, is what I was trying to get at there. It's hot, my brain's frazzled. Thanks, Tedward, what a day. Yeah, you're welcome, that rat bastard. Still looking forward to the Beastmen video that you hinted about and how they benefit from the match play guide. Yeah, so I'm what I'm wanting to do, and this has thrown all my plans into disarray. I was not expecting this book for like a week and a half. I was going to do a second version of the match play book where we go, here's all of the factions, this is how it affects your army, and I think that probably goes away now. I think I might not do it, or I might still do it. I haven't quite decided. Maybe it gets rolled into each faction, or maybe I do as a standalone. I really need to work out what the hell I'm doing. There's a lot there. Do these changes just kill legacy factions a bit? Are we now leaning even more on the renegade rules? I think the people who were will be, and the people who won't, because it mostly comes down to whether or not you think people should be using homebrew as a balancing tool, and it's not really the content of them, it's more the moral implication is the wrong way of putting it. But yeah, that's that. Yeah, need to redo Cathay as it's Cathay week. Yeah, maybe Cathay's the first one. Just destroy your sanity again for Dark Elves first. I will say, I don't think Dark Elves are going to be first. I probably will hit like the mainline factions that you'd expect to see. So like Tomb Kings, Bretonnia, potentially Warriors of Chaos, all of that good stuff. YouTube centers have turned their eye upon you. Be careful. Eye of Sauron just turns to face me. All of that good stuff there. Is there anything that I missed here in chat that I should scroll up and look at? You've been playing Tomb Guard before this, so it makes me feel good. Yep, hell yeah, Tanako. I like the concept of them. They just didn't quite do it, but now that they've got a 4-up save in combat, that makes them really kind of sticky. 120 clan rat list gets stronger. It's a good day. It didn't get worse. Sam says, big question now. How is my dream of a Wood Elf army? Would you still not recommend? I like Wood Elves. I think there's going to be a lot to play around with. The poison change hits them pretty hard. The fly nerf, like things losing fly. I don't know. I feel like Wild Hunt might be a way forwards for me. I really like the concept of Wild Hunt. That might be, now that the fact that they can only have a level 2 wizard, it's probably more exciting to play Wild Hunt than before. And also, and I haven't really worked out if I think dragons are dead or not. If dragons are dead, Wild Hunt gets significantly better because they have to charge stuff unless you screen them correctly. But if you screen, like if you're charging into basically anything else, they will do some real work. High initiative, a lot of attacks. They can really rip through all stuff. Skaven as Gamble Core. Yeah. War Machines protected by big blocks of troops get a lot of better. Empire stonks up, and also Cathay. Specifically Warp Lightning cast in a 10. Yeah, Warp Lightning is such a weird spell. I'm never super jazzed to see it. Valtide spam seems strong. Yeah, potentially. Valtide is still decent. Although some of the things that we wanted to cast Valtide into are not necessarily going to be in the meta. So if you're rolling a 6 to do a wound to a 4 or 5 point clan rat, compared to a single wound to a 650 point Chaos Dragon, there's a real difference there. With Pillar of Fire gone, can anyone think of obvious ways of dealing with a Banshee? Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Can Bestigors with Fury of the Beast cast on them now attack from 3 ranks? Yes, I believe so, because it's just +1 rank, and you fight in 2 ranks. Or your fighting rank is 2 deep instead of 1 deep, but it also means that you can fight in 2 ranks in the charge, and 3 ranks if you're not in the charge. Super curious how Empire maths out now. Yeah, the big combat res bricks, I think, become interesting. Whether other magic arrows and which now equips poison. My gut feeling is that Arcane Bodkins are probably pretty interesting as your first port of call for your Wood Elf arrows. It's a shame they can't get Demonology. +1 strength and AP would go crazy on maybe some like quick shot arrows, something like that. Do supporting attacks work for multiple ranks now? I'd have to double check that one. Shane Wood also didn't get the ability to choose spells back. Now Pillar of Fire spam has been curtailed. Yeah, that probably would be fine. Would that be abusable? Probably not. But you can get Hammer Hand guaranteed, so that's decent. Understandable. You had to try. Oh yeah, I've read that one as well already. So if infantry can fight in 2 ranks now, as long as they don't charge, does it sack with spears? Yes, spears will be a +1 because that's a supporting attack. So spears get you to 3 ranks. Yeah, it's good stuff. Really good stuff. Man, I'm so excited to play Old World again. I hate that sort of like middle ground where you know there's changes coming and you don't know when the changes are coming and you don't really want to do any innovation. I've kind of felt like that for like 6 to 8 months where you're like, I kind of feel like the meta's a little bit solved. It's hard for me to want to go deep, but I don't think we're going to see any big changes until the end of the edition, so it's time to get the abacus out and start doing some maths. Is infantry fighting in 2 ranks only in the front? Yes, it absolutely is. Existence says I may have missed it earlier, but no bound spells if you march. That is correct. I'm pretty sure that was the case anyway, or at least that's how I played it. Green Knight remains banned. Yeah, as it should do. As it should do. We will see. We will see. Ugh. Tom Brown. Is that the Tom that sent me a message a couple of weeks ago that I haven't responded to? If it is, apologies. I saw your message when I was in the middle of doing something, and I keep meaning to respond, and I keep forgetting. So I will get round to shooting you a response as I get chance, although I am going to be super tied up with this, so I'm 100% going to forget again. But you'll get a response from me sooner rather than later. I tentatively promise if it is you. And apologies for leaving you on red, or not even opening the message. Yeah. Any last thoughts? Any other questions? I feel like we've pretty much covered everything. I don't even know what the game's going to change. Yeah, hey, there we go, Tom. I will get back to you on that one. Bretonian players still banned from owning green paint. No, I'd like to see all of their army be painted in green. Do you think the way to exploit these infantry rules is probably elite stuff or big unit cheap stuff? It's hard to say. Like, my gut feel is things that were good already get better, but then stuff like the Black Orcs don't necessarily get significantly better. I think they get better to an extent because you can run Black Orcs with, still using Mob Rule, still getting the 3-up armor save, still using the great weapons on half of them, but you've now got 2 ranks. You do have to make sure that both your the first and second rank are equipped correctly with shields, because otherwise it skews your maths for fighting rank. But yeah, interesting stuff, I think. You could potentially go all of your great weapons in the second rank. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know. I have to think about this. Warriors of Chaos on foot seem great. I'm excited to see them back. Yeah. Like that. So Warriors of Chaos on foot and Lizardman Saurus / Tomb Guard are the two, like the toughness 4, 5-up, heavy armor and shield units that suddenly become just a little bit more tasty. Both of them potentially looking at taking halberds as well. Pretty nice in there. Any clarification in the FAQ on taking named characters that level 4 with another level 4? No, but we're now in a world where level 4 casters are only getting +2 to cast, so there is significant nerf to that. Is it better to charge with a unit of gore or be charged and fight in 2 ranks with 2 hand weapons? It's going to really vary. It's going to vary depending on what you're up against, but you know what's going to be really good? Any army that wants to run big bricks of infantry, that can run elementalism for earthen ramparts, so you can turn off the initiative bonus for your enemy having charged you. You then get the benefit of probably getting to attack either first or at the same time with 2 ranks, and they lose all of their like impact hits and stomps and everything like that. So it's going to be huge, I think. Or maybe not impact hits and stomp. I'll have to go through and double check. Yeah, my brain is pretty fried. It's, I've just gone through however many pages of FAQ, and there's a lot of changes that I'm still sort of wrapping my head around. You can finally start building your Warriors of Chaos now. They want Throne on board. Hell yeah. Halberd as well might be interesting. I'm asking our Orc boys A tier or S tier now. They are cheap. Let's have a look. So if we go Orc boys, they're on page like 30, 20 something, 25. One more. Here we go. So they come with light armor standard. They can take shields for a point, and that puts them at 6 points for hand weapon shields. And that gets them to a 4 up save in combat. They are T4. They're only strength 3, but they've got the chopper rule for +1 strength on the charge. No, sorry. Biggins gives them +1 strength on the charge. Choppers gives them AP and rerolls. I don't know that I'm sold on orc mobs. Given that night goblins exist, because you could just do this for 3 points a model. They've got hand weapon shields, so they've got a 5 up save in combat. You don't bother with the spears. You probably don't bother with the short bows anymore. You can go with the fanatics still. Yeah, I think this is like the go-to for tanky, or like for cheap scoring core. And then the Black Orc unit as well is going to be absolutely fantastic. I think Orc players are probably going to pivot to everyone running a brick of Black Orcs. That's my expectation. Everyone runs Black Orcs, everyone runs 3 units of Night Goblins, and go from there. We'll see, obviously outside like Nomadic Warrior, or we're talking Grand Army, but I think this is a really good unit. Rat Ogres were chronically depressed already. Rat Ogres never got rules for Old World, unfortunately, and if you tell me that they did, you're wrong. Orchestration says, just got here, how's it looking for Bretonia? It's looking real good. Like, they did not get many changes. Falconhorn is once per game. Pegasus and Royal Peg got like a love tap in terms of points. Other than that, no real changes. Ogre Blade went up 10 points. So if you're playing Grand Army, you only put Ogre Blade on your Baron. Sure. Great. You feel like the FAQ Errata really nudges closer to a true rank and flank game. I agree. I hope that's correct, because that is my gut feel as well. If an infantry unit fights from the second rank, they get the full attack characteristic. Yeah, they're in base to base. They're fighting rank. Pretty wild. But it doesn't work for monstrous infantry. So big Death Stars of like Ogre Iron Guts don't get loads more attacks, which is a shame. Just joined, looking at the changes to Frenzy, making Rat Ogre sad. Yeah, sorry about that. Bretonian Foot Knights sound like they might be good now with Furious Charge, Great Weapons, and Hand Weapon Shield for sustained combat. Yeah, I think they're a lot more exciting. You'll always outnumber people. More likely to... Oh, Matthew's probably talking about the Night Goblins, right? Poison Spears could be tasty, potentially. Hey, John. I think we'll have to do some math. The problem is it's 6s to hit that get the +2 to wound. I'd rather it was just all attacks get +1 to wound or something like that. I feel like having to track the 6s and then roll some separately, it's not like a big thing, but it just feels a bit clunky. If you just went Poison Banner as a flat +1 to wound, I think that's interesting, and it's not actually too good. I had been speculating around doing it, and I'd done a little bit of maths already, so I know that +1 to wound isn't actually too good, but it's fine. Trolls not had a good FAQ, but a lot more infantry to fight may be good. Yeah, so I think the changes to Trolls... Like, there are no nerfs to Trolls, right? As far as I can tell. But the changes are just a flat... If you exist as a Troll player, the things that are good against you... Pillar of Fire got worse... Fireball and Ruby Ring of Ruin are now harder to cast comparatively. Your magic resist is more valuable if you go Stone Trolls. Your Dispel threat is more valuable as well. Yeah, Warp-Moon Banner isn't great. Beastmen don't really care, though. Yeah, that's fine. The thing that, like, the Anti-Fly was really targeting, dragons, is maybe potentially out of the meta, and I don't know, but we need to do some real testing on that. Fun fact, Australian Masters is running for the first time end of July. What the fuck is the meta? That's really funny. I hope they use the new rules. God, imagine if you used the old stuff. How dull that would be. What else have we got in here? Banner of the Warp Moon. Talked about that already. Skaven Anti-Fly Banner, now the best Anti-Fly in the game. Don't think it requires a leadership check. Yeah, that's really nice. The Cathay one's the same as well. You need Ogdras. Ogdras is nice. Yeah. The +1 to cast for being near Trolls is really solid. Poison on things like Strength 4 plus Warbows and Javelins got a big buff, but pretty niche. I don't even know if it got a buff, because previously you were just, like, every 6 is an auto wound. So even if you're getting +2 to wound, it's always worse, unless you've got, like... The math starts to get good if you've got Armor Bane 2, but there's not a lot. So maybe we look at poison shooting with Razor Standard? Maybe? We'll see. Spider Riders with Spider Banner now might be vaguely funny. I don't know how that's going to work. Is it +4 to wound? That seems excessive. Stupidity is a big problem now. Agreed. Is Ruby Ring of Ruin harder to cast? It's +1 instead of +2, but being dispelled at +2 instead of +4. So within dispel range, it's easy
Just
to get off.
purchased a Warriors of Chaos box with the champion the other day for a 1,250 list. Did my luck strike again? Did they suffer nerfs? XD.
Thank you, Valerie. I think the stuff in that box got exponentially better. Knights gained countercharge, and Knights are probably going to be better into the meta than they already were. Infantry got big buffs. Warriors of Chaos, one of the units that got the most, like, one of the best recipients of the buff changes, so they're really solid. Chariots were underwhelming. Now that infantry's really good, or infantry's looking better, chariots are, like, here's the pie chart. It's rock, paper, scissors. So assuming we take dragons out of the meta entirely, you've got infantry. Infantry is good if it can survive. And how do you deal with that? Well, you put chariots into them, because chariots do loads of impact hits, and you can kill loads of them, and you get loads of damage there. Infantry is theoretically good into cavalry, unless it's got first charge, and then cavalry is good into the chariots, because chariots are slow, they don't have swift stride, usually don't have counter charge. So cavalry kill chariots, chariots kill infantry, and infantry should kill cavalry, which we're maybe seeing that more now with the 2 ranks of fighting and the extra combat res, and they can maybe weather the storm. And cavalry are really going to have to lean on first charge, and then also, like, either being a big unit of cavalry or doubling down on something. How are Squig Hoppers looking? 5 of them are object to unit strength 10, so they can abuse special features of the block line of sight. Yep, that would be good. Just want to remind you, again, they nerfed to tutor guard. Yeah, I don't understand that. That is weird. Like, maybe they thought the rule did something different. I'd love to pick the brains of whoever made that change. Savas says +2 to wound on any 5 or 6. Yeah, that's interesting. Have you spotted Exalters can take dragons? Yeah, John, I got really excited about it. And then I realised, wait, it's only a toughness 5 dragon. So, some thoughts to be had there. We'll see. What's the change on Swift Stride? There's no change on Swift Stride. Just, if I was talking about Swift Stride, it was, the relative value of that against other things, I guess. Are Worlds using the new rules? I'm not on any committees. I just get told what I get told once the changes have been decided. I would say 100% they're going to be using the new rules. We've got basically 3 months between now and WTC, so we've got plenty of time to actually get the meta sorted. And it's like enough time that we'll all have a rough idea of what's good, but there's going to be some spicy lists in there, which is really exciting. Let's have a look here. Valerie was asking about dragons. Dragons are interesting. I don't know how dragons are going to look. My gut feel is that they get worse, but they're still playable. That's my feeling. They had the rule with that. Oh! Yep. Okay, no, that makes perfect sense. Thank you, Severs. So, to Tutoring Guard, the Empire Journal, and I'd missed this because I just pulled it up on my phone to skim through, they had the rule printed on their sheet, but they also had the ability to buy the rule. So all they've done is stopped it so that you get the rule for free, and now you have to pay points for it. Okay, yep, that's fine. That's fine. That makes sense. Runner moves can't capture objectives as they can't move in the movement phase. I'll have to double check the wording on that. You might well be right. Vlackod, what's the point of chosen knights when regular knights got counter charge? 2 up armor save, 2 attacks per model, 6 up ward save. They're a lot beefier. They do get worse comparatively, but yeah, they do still have some value. They have drilled as well. Drilled is really strong on a 2 up save knight unit. Is the number of ranks attacking with spears limited only by movement? I thought it was only 3 ranks. Let's go back and have a look at the base rule here for spears. Let's see what we're working with. Let's have a look here. I will have to go sooner rather than later, unfortunately. As much as I'm loving this, I do have a coaching session in the next soon, and I've already pushed him back 30 minutes. I don't want to take the mick and push him back any further. So let's have a look here. Where is the change that I'm looking for fighting ranks? Let's see here. Supporting attacks. Models whose weapon allow them to make supporting attacks can do so if they're in the rank or file directly behind the fighting rank of the unit and within a number of inches. So no. So spears get you to 3 ranks because it's directly behind the fighting rank. yeah, that's a good change. That's a good change. Okay. And again, you can't supporting attacks to flank or rear, but if we look at the attacks for fighting rank, fighting rank is 2 ranks deep even if you're flank charged. Yeah, cool. Infantry got way more interesting. I'm really, really excited to see what happens with those. Swift Stride was highlighted blue, so I thought something was changed, but I couldn't figure it out. Yeah, I think this is just one that they left in blue from last time, or maybe there's like a cosmetic change here. I don't think it actually factually changes. Is there even if the Necrolith Bone Drake, I've been dreading that thing for a while. Well, as in the Tomb King Bone Dragon. In terms of, are you saying, is it still usable? I think undead dragons probably go up in value because they're quite cheap, and I think cheaper is probably better. Need to be behind the fighting rank and within movement range. Yeah. But then also, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to call it there. It's been an absolute blast. This has been a great 2.5 stream. Lovely, lovely stuff. FAQ day is the best day. Hopefully you all enjoyed. Hopefully that has answered some questions, and between us we have been able to form some thoughts and opinions. So yeah, perfect. All right, have a good one, and you can expect to see more stuff coming. Maybe not today, maybe today, probably not today. Let's not overpromise and underdeliver. Let's assume